they said the perfect match came in, or else I might still be waiting.
Yes.
And people who know what I'm talking about, who are on the list, you can wait 18 months. You can go down there, get ready to have the op, and they say it's not quite right. Go away, come back. We'll phone you later, maybe in a few weeks, and it can be murder. It can be terrible. But I was so lucky. I went down there and they said, we've got one and it looks perfect, so we're going to do it now. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So they eject you all over, and you think you have to sign a few forms.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And you get carried in there, and it's like, goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. Just it's a massive operation.
Wife's in tears, and it's horrible.
But you knew though, didn't you, Al? Before that, you knew. You know, when you were on air here and you felt dizzy and you had to come off, you knew something was.
Well, that was the stage where I had to get it done, or it was see you later.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise it was that extreme, but it was. They told me, said another couple of weeks you were gone.
With your latest sport headlines, I'm Matt Hutchinson. Good morning. It looks like Rodri is heading to Barca this summer. His agent has revealed he wants to move to the new camp rather than Real Madrid. talkSPORT senior transfer correspondent is Ben Jacobs.
This is astonishing because Rodri wanted Real Madrid. Real Madrid had got a mandate financially from Florentino Perez to start conversations with Manchester City.
Elsewhere, some much-needed relief for Gianni Infantino this morning. The Confederation of African Football has backed the FIFA president, thanking him for what it calls a very successful World Cup. But UEFA has confirmed its boycott of FIFA tournaments still stands. Now, as we edge closer to the return of top-flight football, a former Man United double title winner has pledged his support for Michael Carrick.
For him to be able to have a full pre-season, bring in whoever he likes in terms of players and just have that belief, I think there's no one better kind of steering that ship, really. And I'm excited to see what the season brings for them.
Well, Chris Smalling has been speaking to talkSPORT Breakfast. He's looking for a club still after leading the Saudi side Al Fire. Arsenal are expected to confirm their £75 million signing of Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle today after he completed a medical last night. Mo Salah says joining new club Trabzonspor on a 2-year deal is a unique feeling. The Egyptian king has been mobbed ever since arriving in Istanbul.
The last couple of days, it's an experience I never had in my life. I just want to thank every one of you for being here today and yesterday. You showed me so much love. I want to win something with this club.
And Rangers boss Darragh McAnthony has criticised his players following their 2-1 first leg loss at Polish side Jagiellonia in their Europa League qualifier. McAnthony says the display showed a lot of the same issues from last season.
talkSPORT News.
National Rail is expecting disruption to train services across the northwest until at least midday. And Meta has been fined £420 million over in the US. Emma has more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Sort your new tyres this summer at a time that suits you best from the comfort of your home or work 7 days a week with our mobile tyre fitting service. Conditions apply.
We're expecting a dry Friday for most of the UK, cloudy for many with plenty of sunny spells.
Good morning, this is White and Jordan with me, Max Scott, alongside Peterborough chairman Darragh McAnthony. In for Jim and Simon this morning, we've got a very busy show coming up. With Vinicius Jr. extending his contract at Real Madrid, we're asking how and why football agents have so much power after it seems that Arsenal have been used as a bit of leverage for Vinny to get the deal that he wanted. As well, Darragh is going to be delving into what it actually takes to run a football club, the ins and outs, be giving us an insight into everything that goes into being a successful owner. Elsewhere, Rangers lost their Europa League qualifier last night. A winless start for Darragh McAnthony. Is it too early to be hitting the panic button on his tenure at Ibrox? Are Spurs finally behaving like a big club thanks to the honest, no-nonsense approach from Roberto De Zerbi? And Spencer Oliver's going to be joining us live from Leeds ahead of Callum Simpson versus Troy Williamson this weekend live on talkSPORT. We'll, of course, be running through the very latest transfer news with our senior transfer correspondent, Ben Jacobs. Plus, we want to hear from you, of course, this morning on talkSPORT. If you support an EFL club and have a question for Darragh about your team or anything in football, give us a call, send us a WhatsApp message. We're going to be answering those in Ask Darragh at the end of the show. 03717 223344 for your calls, your WhatsApp messages and your voice notes for Darragh. So much to get stuck into this morning here on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
A reminder as well, you can listen, as well as listening to us, you can watch the show, watch on LG channels, Prime, Samsung TV, Roku, Rakuten, as well as YouTube within the talkSPORT app. Wherever you watch, we are there. Darragh McAnthony. Morning, mate.
How are you, pal?
I'm doing all right. Do you know, this is the first time we've done a show together. We talk about, 7 degrees of separation.
Right.
Before I got into this game, I was a teacher. I was a deputy head down south in Bournemouth, lovely part of the world.
Gotcha.
And I taught at the school where Jimmy J. Morgan was.
Right, okay.
Obviously, star football player.
Yeah.
He had an incredible season at the Posh last season. He's now got a big move to West Brom, banging
Chelsea,
goals
you're welcome.
pre-season.
Jimmy, you're welcome.
Absolutely. Good lad.
Great lad. We took him off Gillingham's bench. Chelsea rang us last summer. To be fair to them, we didn't pay anything, really. You know, because we kind of we needed a spare player in the squad. Jimmy came in and did brilliant for Luke. And he's got a lot of upside, a lot of potential. Like every other young player, has a few downsides he needs to clean out of the locker. But West Brom have got a good one there. Yeah. Really like him as a kid.
Yeah, love it. Good to see, love to see it. And so that's the connection for us this morning.
Wow.
But
teacher.
Yeah, it used to be, mate, but not anymore, and happily so. But look, let's get into the big news that was breaking last night. Vinicius Jr.'s agreed that new 6-year contract with Real Madrid. It keeps him at the Bernabeu till 2032. He's won 14 trophies, 2 Champions League, 3 La Ligas. He says 8 years at the Bernabeu are too short. 6 more years, then forever. My question to you is, was he ever going to join Arsenal?
No chance. I was on here last week and I said the same. There's no way he's coming to Arsenal and to the Premier League. And with all due respect, I never believed it. I don't think Real Madrid believed it either. They're the biggest club in the world. So, anywhere, if you leave Real Madrid, you're not going upwards. With all due respect to Arsenal, Liverpool fan, if you've gone to Liverpool, I'd say the same. So, he was never leaving that club. It's going to be interesting when I front four at Madrid this year with under Mourinho. Really interesting.
Absolutely.
But,
anything under Mourinho's box office as well.
Always, yeah. So I guess it's his kind of final chance to, put himself back out there and go out in a blaze of glory, isn't it?
Yeah,
and he's certainly got the tools with Diamonde about to sign. So, wow.
Well, I think that was announced yesterday, so he's there.
He's done. He's done and dusted. He's done his medical, everything else. Brilliant. Well, look, I'm a Madrid fan from a Spanish point of view. So, but I never thought I don't think Arsenal fans did either. Come on. When you look at the finances and you look at all the rules now in place, and by the way, don't get me wrong, Kroenke, who owns Arsenal, could afford to do that deal 20 times over.
Yeah.
But legally, I'm just not sure it would have worked, and I just didn't ever see it happening.
Well, I want to get your take on this, because just before us, Arsenal invincible Ray Parle, of course, joined Big Alan Brazil, reunited on the Breakfast Show this morning. He said Vinny Jr. has used Arsenal as a weapon.
But what he's done, Vinicius Jr., he's worked both teams, isn't he? He's gone, right, Arsenal interested, they're going to give me so-and-so and so-and-so, and he's probably wanted to stay at Real Madrid, but he's used Arsenal as a weapon to say, this is what you'll give me if I'm going to stay. And as soon as they said, right, we're getting a bit worried now, he could be leaving, they've gone, right, we're going to give you the money. And he's gone, right, great, I'll stay. Yeah. Perfect. So he's used Arsenal to get more money.
He's a special.
Oh, absolutely. And it would have been an unbelievable signing and a big statement for Arsenal if they did get him. But a lot of my Arsenal mates were saying, no, I don't think we're going to get him, are we? I said, no, probably not. But if they do get him, it'd be fantastic for the club.
Darragh, is it the case that in this instance, Arsenal have been used as a bargaining chip for Vinny Jr. and his agent?
With all due respect to Arsenal and to Ray, there's only 3 places you would use as a bargaining chip to get a better contract at Madrid. 1, that you threaten to go to Barcelona at the end of your contract. 2, PSG, and 3, Saudi. Like, Arsenal ain't going to be used as a bargaining chip. No club in the Premier League will. So
why do you say that?
Well, because of the finances and the rules. You guys are on here every day, boring us to bits about PSR, SCR, TTR.
Oh, don't worry, plenty more about that later on.
Yeah, right, about what clubs can do and what clubs can't do. So the idea that Arsenal could, I don't know, pay 100 million to buy him and then pay him £1 million a week to come to the Premier League and make all of that work legally, it's just never going to happen. And again, I'm not trying to diminish Arsenal because they're the Premier League champions. I have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah, of course.
But this is a guy playing in Spain. PSG are the ones who've notoriously gone to Spain, got Messi out of there, got Neymar out of there.
Yeah.
So, and then Saudi are the ones recently who've come in and blown everyone out of the water financially.
Is that to the detriment of the Premier League then, that there are these restrictions that mean you can't necessarily go and raid Barcelona or Real Madrid for their stars?
So I guess yes, but there's 2 parts to that. One, you'd have to convince someone to leave Real Madrid and Barcelona in their prime to come to the Premier League. I'm not sure you're going to do that because of the life and the lifestyle they have in Spain and the accolades. So I guess what you're saying there is maybe the Premier League need to look at the American system where maybe each Premier League club's allowed 1 star that isn't included in the whole SCR, PCR, whatever it's called.
What, like a marquee signing?
Yeah, marquee signing. If you want to keep growing the league, and I've always said it's going to $1 trillion industry, which it will become, you want the best players in the world, right? Yeah. So you want the potential to be able to sign them. And if you've got clubs like an Arsenal who are owned by one of the wealthiest men in the world and are never in danger of going out of business or not paying their bills, and they want to bring a marquee star like Vinicius Jr. to the Premier League, that's good for business. It's good for the Premier League. It's good for the EFL. Maybe each club needs 1 marquee signing. Maybe that rule needs to be written in. I don't know. I guess then you've got UEFA's rules and all the rules around then that as well.
Are there too many rules?
Yeah, I think sometimes bureaucracy can get in the way. I know what we're all after because in the EFL we're after sustainability. Yeah. We're after making sure the clubs don't go out of business. People can pay their bills. Staff don't, not have their wages paid and their mortgages. But there has to be a bit of common sense to it too. And I guess when you get the clubs in the Premier League, the size of some of the clubs we have, Man City, Arsenal, where they have untapped wealth, you want to keep the competition fair and you want them signing 25 marquee signings every summer. But at the same time, you want the league to shine on a world stage. So, you've put a good point there. So maybe there needs to be a little rule around that just to keep the light shining bright.
Yeah. We were going to talk about agents. I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show when we talk about running a football club. But for Arsenal specifically, are they... Look, Bruno's coming in. Fantastic. That's a fierce central midfield. Him alongside Declan Rice. Are they still lacking? They got rid of Trossard. Of course, he scored that vital goal at West Ham. Are they in need of a marquee signing?
No, I don't. Look, I think Arsenal go back-to-back. And I don't know about... They want to win the Champions League. But let's not forget, 4 months ago, they were a penalty shootout away from winning the double of the Champions League and the Premier League. And we're talking about them needing the marquee signing. So if you're asking, do they need it to keep winning trophies? No. Because I think Arteta's put a very good squad together, a very in-depth, deep squad. Yeah. They've got injuries, people get tired. They're about to drop 75 million like it's nothing, on a player that's turning 29 this year. That shows you the strength of Arsenal. So I don't think they need a marquee signing. I just think it would have been fascinating to see how that happen. The next question I would have had is, how would Arteta put him in the team? We've seen the way Arsenal played last year. Yeah. And you would have been very interested.
That would have forced his hand for me, Darragh.
Yes.
Because people say, I think quite glibly, Arsenal, the handbrake's going to be off next season. They're going to play different.
No chance.
But it's like, hold on a minute.
No chance.
This is what's nobly got Arteta to where it has.
I know how managers work. They return to the scene of the crime. So if that worked for Arsenal last year based on clean sheets, you know what I mean? Obviously not being overly explosive, not opening themselves up. Let me tell you right now, and he's not wrong, by the way, because managers are judged by wins and they haven't won a title since the old king died, hence why he delivered. Yeah. If that serves them again next year to go and do what they just did, win a Premier League, get to the Champions League final, they'll sign up for it now.
No, I'm with you on that. Look, plenty more where this came from, but we do have some breaking news here on talkSPORT. Matt Hutchinson, broadcast journalist, reporter on talkSPORT, is with us. Matt, what have you got?
Thanks, Max. Yeah, good morning. We've got some breaking news about Ivan Toney, the England player. He's been charged with assault causing actual bodily harm. It's over an incident at a nightclub in Soho, of course, in central London in December of last year. The Met has just given us that update. Ivan Toney charged with assault causing ABH.
Brilliant stuff, Matt. Thank you. We'll react to that throughout the rest of the show. But up next, we're going to be getting into what next for Rangers. Winless start under Darragh McAnthony. Is this bad for Scottish football?
I anticipate Arsenal to absolutely go again and just be as good as they've been this season. The key element for me on the title this year is Rodri. If Rodri's a Manchester City player throughout the whole course of the season, Manchester City will win the league.
That's a shouting off, that isn't it?
Do you disagree? If Manchester City lose Rodri and he goes to Real Madrid, they will not win the league.
I know what you're saying, but I look at it as well from because Anderson's coming, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's not Rodri.
I know he's not Rodri.
But he'll benefit from playing alongside him.
Yeah, that would happen.
But if you leave him on his own in there, I think you've got carnage.
I do know what you're saying, but I think there's more of a factor that Maresca might not be up for it either. You don't know yet.
I think he's up for it.
You reckon he's up for it?
I think he's up for it.
We'll see.
He knows that club. He's been at that club. He understands how that club
you're
works.
You're talking like a real Manchester City supporter.
He went to Chelsea. He did.
Are you Blackburn? You're a Blackburn fan, yeah?
Yeah, hold on a minute. We'll talk about their dismal summer in a minute.
What about the other teams?
Why are you doing this? Why are you deflecting?
Well, I'm just trying to say.
All I was doing was talking about the Premier League title race. That's all I was saying. And I was just saying that the big impact, the key piece of information for me is Rodri being a Man City player throughout the whole course of the season. And if he is, Manchester City will win the league.
Cool, but that's a shout.
Do you not think so?
So where was he last season?
Getting back from his ACL, mate. Do you not think so?
No, listen, mate.
So you're tipping Arsenal. You think so? You believe in what I said at the start of the show, that you believe that we're entering a dynasty time.
Yeah, but I wouldn't hang my hat on it.
Good morning, you're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT. Still to come, we'll get the very latest from the transfer window. What's going to happen with Arsenal now that they're out of that Vinny Jr. deal? He's at Madrid till 2032. And we're going to be asking the question as well, across in North London, are Spurs finally behaving like a big club? Delve into Roberto De Zerbi, the no-nonsense approach from him. But for now, we're going to look at a bit of Scottish football. Have Rangers... Are they now going to already be hitting the panic button on appointing Darragh McAnthony? Winless start. They suffered a 2-1 first leg defeat in their Europa League third round qualifier away to Polish side, bear with me, Jagiellonia Białystok last night. I mean, I'd never heard of them. And I know my football.
Say that with a drink in you.
Yeah, no, it come out better. Of course, leaves McAnthony winless after 2 games following that draw against Dundee in the opening weekend of the Scottish Premiership. Rangers brought in 9 new signings this window, more than expected, but it couldn't, pretty much the worst possible start. And when McInnes first joined Rangers, Darragh, a month ago, he was asked about the weight of the Rangers shirt.
I want the players to feel that when you sign for Rangers, it's incumbent on them all that part of the reason when they sign here is to be successful. It's incumbent of them. They've got to feel that responsibility. A lot of players will sign for a club for lots of reasons, location, financial reasons, all the rest of it. But there's got to be a part that when we all sign up here is to win trophies and be successful, because if you're not here long, and it's not a good place to be when you're not winning. So for me, I want to enjoy being a Rangers manager, and I can only do that by winning. And the players can only really enjoy being here by winning games.
That was Darragh McAnthony when he first signed, saying the things that you would expect.
Yeah,
he said he wants to enjoy winning, not got off to a winning start.
How many games have they played?
Just to 2.
You guys in the media, 2 games.
What did you make of that appointment? Was there a part of you that felt for Hearts because they came so close and as ever, the big boys?
I still feel for Hearts because obviously they've had a horror start to the season, and I presume you're all talking about their new manager being under pressure because obviously he's got hammered in qualifiers, and I think they lost again last night. McInnes is obviously a very established manager. He worked miracles at Hearts. Obviously, Bloom's involved now there. I think everyone was excited about the fact you just didn't have 2 teams in Scotland anymore. There were now maybe 3 that were at the table. So it was a very exciting, league title campaign last year. Probably the most exciting in years. So will McInnes be under pressure now? Look, he's got 9 new. You just said 9 new signings. Do you know how long it takes to bed people in? So I get the expectations are for Rangers to win every trophy. So they should be. It's going to take a minute.
When we talk about Rangers, since Steven Gerrard took over back in 2021, they've had 6 permanent managers, 4 interim managers. That's a lot of change.
Yeah, too much change.
The Watford of the Scottish Premiership.
Potentially, yeah, way too much change, and you're never going to get continuity. But you could also argue Celtic had 3-4 manager changes last year and won the title. So what works?
Why is it such a destable or unstable environment? As it, at the minute for the big clubs.
Expectations, because they've got massive fan bases. Rangers and Celtic are massive. They've got top 10 Premier League fan base, top 6, top 7.
Yeah.
So the expectations on all those fans is they should win the league, they should win all the cups, and they should compete in Europe. Now, the alarm bells would be about Europe, because we always end up talking about Scottish football when they don't do well in Europe. They go out in the qualifiers, they don't make the Champions League group stages, all those things. So I've got skin in that game as well. You know what I mean? We get a decent figure for one of our players if they win that second leg. So I did have one eye on that result last night, and I was a bit surprised.
Well, you'd expect that at Ibrox, a European. That can easily change around.
Yeah,
and you'll get your payday. Happy days.
Hopefully, yeah. So, but look, more importantly, they've got to get back to winning. They obviously drew their first game. And funny, I watched that as well. There's no other football on, so I was watching Scottish football all of a sudden. So, but he's got a lot of players to bet in. I think they still want to sign some players. So. These problems we're now talking about and the media suddenly manifest that he's under pressure or whatever. It's far too early for that.
I didn't say he's under pressure, but it's not the start that you'd want.
But the media up there will. Guaranteed. If for some reason they don't win the next game convincingly or they draw the next game, that the media will start doing what they do.
As an owner, how much of an influence does media narrative and pressure have on the decisions you make?
None.
Because you strike me as someone that wouldn't listen to that.
None.
But you're saying that there is going to be a lot of pressure.
Oh, God, yeah. Look. Back in the day when I first bought a club at 29, 30, it's different. You're new to it. So fan pressure, media pressure, outside pressure, all the noise. As you're in the game a little bit longer, you ignore the noise because you're inside the noise. You already know all the reasons why you're not winning. Maybe you've got injuries. That the new signings haven't gelled. That you're missing a piece or two. So it's a lot easier to make those decisions. Far too many, owners are probably like gun happy and go out and by the way, I was gun happy back in the day when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I guess experience has taught me to be a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more intuitive regards to what a manager and a team are going through.
Rangers only a goal down going into that second leg.
Yeah.
Hearts were hammered 6-1 at Benfica last night. We know about Tony Bloom. There's a blueprint there for all to see in Brighton, and it's an incredible one.
Yeah.
And rightly it's lauded as a model that other clubs, when they get promoted to the Premier League, they want to follow.
Yeah.
There will be some Hearts fans worried about, with no McInnes, with Shankland gone, is that a one-hit wonder? How do they maintain the pressure on that big 2 up in Scotland?
Yeah.
Are you concerned that it'll take a little bit of time for them to transition away from what they had last season and get back to that?
I'm not concerned about the recruitment, the policies that, say, Bloom is putting in place and implementing up there. I'm concerned about the hangover, about the way they lost the title, because that psychologically can have more of an effect. So it doesn't matter if they went out and signed 20 new players. Maybe you're always going to have that hangover and the come down. they had such a high last year where they had a phenomenal season, but ended up with very little to show for it except controversy with the red cards. Then they lose their manager, they lose players. So I feel for the Hearts fans because this time, 6 months ago, they were as high as you could be up there. And everyone had them pegged to win. And then what happened was cruel. So the one thing I know about Bloom and Co. and the people up there running Hearts, they'll be fine. There might be a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain, but they'll be absolutely fine.
Is there an argument to say that actually the reason that Hearts did so well last season is because Celtic and Rangers were stinking the place out, and that's indicative of the quality of the Scottish Premiership at the minute?
That's fair, but harsh as well, because you like to give a club credit for doing really well and taking advantage of the fact that maybe Celtic and Rangers were asleep at the wheel for a little bit and they were going through managers, and I think Rangers had 3 managers, Celtic had Martin O'Neill was back twice, so that was the chance for Hearts to take advantage, and that's just not going to happen this season. Celtic definitely aren't going to be changing managers. I can't speak for Rangers, so I guess the Hearts fans are going, that was a golden opportunity to win a title for the first time in how many years? But like I said to you, I think long term they're in very good hands, and again we're like 2-3 games in. It's because of the European games as well we're suddenly having these conversations, and I just think it's far too early. Nothing's won in August.
Has the Scottish Premiership started far too early?
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah.
Why? What's the thinking behind?
I don't know. I guess to get people like me to watch, which worked. Because there was nothing on.
What, for 3 games?
And
then the Premier League, the Championship, the EFL's back.
Yeah, who knows? I don't understand why they did it. Not with the World Cup on. The fact Scotland were at the World Cup, it was a bit bizarre. Because most leagues, we've come back later.
Yeah.
We're playing tomorrow in a League Cup game on a Saturday. It's the first time in my 20 years we've started the season playing in the League Cup. It's bizarre.
Do you dislike that?
Yeah, I hate that. So I'd rather we were going next week and then you have your League Cup midweek or whatever else. So, but I understand why, because I'm on the EFL board. One of our talking points always is the fixtures and getting all the cup games in and getting all. We don't end up playing 20 of our league games midweek because it kills our gates, it kills revenue, all those things. So it's. I sympathise with Scotland because maybe there's a bit of that because of the European qualifiers and all the European games. So there's never a perfect formula to this.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how it all pans out. Particularly with Hearts, I think they had the sort of, the support of everyone outside Rangers and Celtic, and we hope that continues because it was blockbuster last season. No matter what you think about Scottish football, you're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobuilderswarehouse.com.
Look at Real Madrid. Go and look at this is the point that I think Gabby was making this morning. I know that he was making it regarding trophies and what have you, but look at the brand value.
180 million.
There you go. Right, that's how big that football club is.
Right, that's a lot.
That's how big that is as a worldwide entity. 180 million, and you're talking about him coming to a club that has 32 million followers on Instagram. Again, these are very basic metrics. Very basic metrics. But Vinicius Junior is in a completely different stratosphere. All this talk about him coming to Arsenal throughout the whole course of the summer has just been manipulation from an agent trying to get the dude a few more quid. That's what it is. He was never in a million years going to be an Arsenal player this summer. That's what it is. It's just manipulating the market. Let's see if I can get some more money for my guy. Yeah. Why would he come to Arsenal?
I said that was the agent talk. Just using Arsenal as a
leverage.
A tool.
Yeah. Arsenal are interested. Oh, right, wicked. Brilliant. Arsenal, champions of England. Right, well, let's use them. Yeah. Let's use them. Go back to the table with the Real Madrid lads. Yeah, he's coming out of contract. You know what I mean? He needs a few more zeros on this contract. Yeah. Okay. We're going to sign Yandy Mande. Let's put some pressure on you. Now, don't worry about that. Vinny Jr. ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Is it?
Come on. You can't leave. I just don't see leaving Real Madrid as a... Unless, you don't leave Real Madrid unless Real Madrid leaves you.
That's it.
That's it, mate.
Unless you come to the end of your time on your way, son.
Can't have a supermodel girlfriend and you leaving your supermodel girlfriend.
She leaves you.
For the dinner lady. Like, you know what I mean?
The dinner lady! You can't call Arsenal a dinner lady.
Oh, it's love, innit? It's love.
Sport News.
Good morning with the latest news headlines. I'm Emma Smith. Rail disruption across the northwest is expected to last until at least midday. Yesterday's power outage left some passengers stranded for hours. Travellers are being urged to check before setting off. Network Rail's Chris Wright says they're working to establish what went wrong.
We will, of course, do a really thorough investigation into this, given the impact this will have had on our customers. But at the moment, we don't know for certain what's caused that interruption.
Meta's been hit with a £420 million fine in the US over claims its platforms put young people at risk. A court's ordered the company, which owns Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, to pay the money to tackle the harm caused by its services. Meta says it will appeal. Norfolk police have made more arrests after days of trouble linked to anti-immigration protests in Thetford. 5 people have now been detained after crowds tried to get into homes housing asylum seekers. And Tom Holland and Zendaya have delivered a wedding sequel with a second secret celebration. The Spider-Man stars reportedly said "I do" all over again at a private Surrey ceremony months after their first wedding.
talkSPORT sports headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
Ivan Toney has been charged with causing ABH at a London nightclub, and Rodri's agent has confirmed he wants to join Barca. More sport with Matt at 11.
Good morning, you're listening to Max Scott, Darragh McAnthony, in for Jim White and Simon Jordan, all thanks to Selco Builders Warehouse. Still to come, want to keep your texts and voice notes coming in for Ask Darragh, 03717 223344. Anything you want to know from an EFL owner about football, about the business, get your questions in. The texts have been flying through, Darragh, so I think you're going to be put through your paces a little bit later on in the show. Happy days. But we're going to move on, talk about Spurs. Talk about Spurs and Roberto De Zerbi. Are they finally behaving like a big club? Are they finally moving in the way that Spurs fans have been asking for years, particularly since they moved to that plush new stadium? Well, Roberto De Zerbi has been speaking to the media just a few days ago about the goals he set for his side this season.
We know in the last 2 seasons we have not played like the people want, like the fans want, like the history of the club says, but we are working to do better and better than last season.
Roberto De Zerbi strikes me as the kind of character you would appreciate, Darragh.
Yeah, love him. Demanding, intense, workaholic, intelligent, great developer of talent. Really like him a lot. My only criticism of him is he doesn't stay around long enough at some point.
It doesn't seem to end well.
A lot of managers are like that. That's football. It very rarely does end well or perfectly. Considering 99% of managers get sacked, or leave.
We look at Darren Ferguson. You know that always seems to end well.
Yeah, with me and him it did. Yeah, because we built a relationship. You know, the first time around it didn't. So, but I like this guy. But like I said, he needs to. I think he sees Spurs as a project, something special he can build, and back up his reputation. You know, because his reputation goes before him that he's all of these great things, but he hasn't delivered enough on the
Pep Guardiola said he's one of the most influential managers in the last 20 years.
Absolutely. I've spoken to people close to him. I've heard stories about how he does his analysis and how he sits and he goes through it with his coaches, with his players. I had an analyst who worked for me, who worked with him, said the guy works he's like Dracula. He's like day and night. He's there all day. Yeah. And I love that. I love anyone with that kind of work ethic. So I think what he's done is he's taken that job. They've paid him big bucks. A bit like Glasner going to Forest. Yeah. When you get a manager like that, of that ilk, you have to back them. There's no point in bringing that kind of manager in if you don't back them. And I think Spurs and, you know, the Lewis children, the family, are obviously getting very excited by this and are backing them. So, yeah, Spurs are a big club. So I said it's going to be a fascinating season for them.
People often complain, and I do, about the game becoming much more sanitised. You know, I'm 33. When I grew up, I used to watch Vieira, Keane, and that sort of. You know, obviously I went to Forest every week. I loved it. They were nowhere near the Premier League at that point.
Sure.
But that made me fall in love with Premier League football, just how raw it was. And nowadays, you know, whether it's VAR, diving, the lack of sort of mavericks on the pitch, players being so media trained that they can't get a sentence out that's worth listening to. For me, De Zerbi's a bit of an antidote to that.
Sure.
Before that Villa game where there was that big outcry about Villa sort of throwing the game, Spurs won it. They've been on a terrible run. They're in the bottom three. And De Zerbi comes out and says, we need to stop crying.
Yeah.
Losers cry.
Yeah.
And for me, that jolt is exactly what Spurs fans wanted from their manager and probably what the board needed. Do you think that that's good for the game?
Yeah. Because I think everyone thought they were going down.
Yeah.
You know, the media had written them off. And you started watching them under him and you could see the belief growing in the players. And I think he's one of those guys. He says what he means and means what he says. And it's beautiful for the game because we want characters in our game, whether it's in the EFL or the Premier League. Like you just said there, instead of being sanitised and squeaky clean and politically correct and everyone watching their P's and Q's and wearing this month's armband for this cause and that cause.
Why has it become like that?
Modern civilization. We've gone soft. I say this. It's funny. People have been texting me about calling you woke, by the way, on my tweets there, saying, you know, you're on with Max. He's super woke like Jim White. And I'm like, no, he's not. I think he's like everyone else nowadays. He yearns and wants to go back to the way it used to be. Certain things. And it's okay to feel like that. But I think now my kids are a generation that they're like 20, 21 and 19. They're built differently. They think differently. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's different. And people don't love change. So when you see someone like him come along, it is a beautiful throwback because it reminds you of all those good times that you're talking about as a Forest fan when the Premier League was exciting and you had Cantona kicking people in the crowd and all those things that went mad back then. You know, players nowadays are like robots at times. They have to be on their best behaviour. They have to say certain things, watch their P's and Q's. They have to ring their agent to ask for permission. That's a big part of it. They are programmed from academy upwards to be like that, where sometimes we want them to express themselves and just be honest.
When you talk about players being robots, I sometimes get the impression that that's not just an off-the-pitch issue, that's something that, because of the way that the game is tactically evolved...
Got to be physical. Be in the gym.
Yeah, but on the pitch, players... You know, you look at someone like Cole Palmer. I remember when they won the Conference League and it was, you know, half-time, it was looking pretty boring. And Cole Palmer, after the game, who changed the game, won the game for them, just said, I was bored of passing it backwards. And that's why we love Cole Palmer, because he's totally authentic and he does that on the pitch. 100%. For me, De Zerbi...
My type of player.
Yeah. Seems like the type of manager that is going to tell his players. He had a brilliant interview in the Times just yesterday saying, ultimately, I've got very few rules. I don't believe in them. I want the players to go out and do that.
You ask your average manager in the EFL or the Premier League about a 10. Let's just choose a 10 as an example. We're talking about like a Cole Palmer type figure. And you say to a manager nowadays, would you prefer your 10 to have that je ne sais quoi and basically create and do things with flair and get bums off seats, or would you prefer him to run 11k and basically run backwards and help the rest of the midfield out? Which one would you prefer? You know the modern day answer. Now asking Alex Ferguson from 20 years ago or Brian Clough and all those players, yes, they wanted their players to work hard, but they still needed them to unlock the door. They still needed them to get bums on seats. They still needed them basically to do the unimaginable. And that's what the Premier League was built on. Going right back to your Bergkamps, your Thierry Henrys, all those players. Nowadays, you're seeing basically wingers, 10s, the amount of work now they have to do in the game, and really they're called up for that more than the attacking side. So I don't disagree with anything you just said. And at times football can get a little bit stale and a little bit boring. I still love a 4-3 over a 1-0. I'm not sure lots of modern day managers and coaches agree with me.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point. Looking at what they brought in, they've spent big. What's the ceiling for Spurs with no European football and a manager that is absolutely chomping at the bit?
I would say he's demanding, and the board would be demanding, Champions League. For the investment, for the talk, because you have to back up the talk. There's one thing talking about it, you got to back it up. They have to. I said to you before we went on air, I think Spurs' biggest problem wasn't recruitment and all those things. That was just one part of it. It was keeping their best players fit. And if they can get their best players fit and keep them fit over the course of a season, because they're only playing, it's like the United fixture schedule this year. They're not in all the Europe or whatever else. It's just domestic cups and the Premier League. So if they can keep people fit, they should qualify for the Champions League.
Do you think that that's something they'll have been looking at, by the way? I mean, we've heard all these sort of theories, whether it's about the pitch, you know, the new pitch causing sort of, whether it's ACLs, hamstring injuries, etc. People like to blame Ange because of his, you know, pressing football. The exact same happened last year. Kulusevski's, you know, you said just before, seeing Kulusevski reminded him he was a Spurs player.
Yeah, forgot all about it.
Do you think there'll be root and branch review into that?
Absolutely, happened to our club. 3 years ago, we had the best. We played more games than anyone. We won the EFL trophy. We were in the playoffs. I think we played 65 games. and the average age of our team was like 21 and a half. Then the following 2 seasons, we had the worst injury record. The season we did well, we had like player availability in 94%. Then it dropped to like 83, 78. You start looking at all the data. Then you start asking the questions because you're like, how can this happen? Particularly when it's muscle injuries, contact injuries, all those things that happen.
You can't legislate for that.
But muscle injuries and constant muscle injuries, torn hamstrings, groins, all those things. So ACLs, touch wood. So they would have looked at that. I dare say there might have been an overview of the medical department, changes what happened. That happens at every football club. It's happened at mine. And I'm not blaming anybody. Just the times you go, a change is as good as a rest. And sometimes you need to do something.
Spurs have got, particularly in defence and midfield, incredible depth. Mickey van der Ven, Kevin Danso, Senesi from Bournemouth, Jean-Paul Van Hecker. I mean, if a hamstring pops, they're all right in that department. You look at their midfield, Maddison, Tonali, Fernandes, Javi Simmons, Gallagher, Gray, Bentancur, as it stands, Bergvall. I know that Forest have been sniffing around there. Sarr. Surely, you look at that and think, that's an unbelievable team.
Great squad.
But one of the big questions around Spurs last season was the culture.
Yeah.
And the culture creeps down from the top.
Yeah.
Christian Romero's the captain.
Yeah.
There's been links to Arsenal on social media. There's been, credible links as well to Atletico Madrid. As an owner, and you watching the way that Christian Romero conducted himself, not just as a player, but in the World Cup, you're having him gone.
Gone. Yeah, gone. Absolutely. And not only that, he was always a walking red card anyway. So, I think Spurs fans and Spurs owners and the managers would have seen enough of him. You just gone through the depth they have, the players they signed this summer. They don't need him. Get the best value you can. He's not going to Arsenal, by the way. Another media load of nonsense, in my opinion. So he will end up at Atletico Madrid. Great move for him. Great move for Spurs. Move on.
So, but would you back Spurs for top 4, particularly without Christian Romero?
Top 5, which is top 5 Champions League. So I would say, yeah. I'm quite confident. Their striking department needs to stay fit. If they can get that, you've just gone through the in-depth in midfield, in-depth at the back, probably out wide, up front. If they can stay fit, if Richarlison can hit double figures, do you know what I mean? Because he's been always a little bit kind of like up and down in those numbers and whatever, they can have a top 5 season without a doubt and maybe win a domestic trophy.
Another player they've been linked to, and as a Liverpool fan yourself, I'm interested in this, is Cody Gakpo.
We'd sell him.
You'd happily sell him?
Absolutely.
Even in the situation that you are when you've not replaced Mo Salah?
Yeah, because he doesn't play on Mo Salah's side. And, we need money.
So you've chopped off the right wing, chopping off the left wing.
Well, we've got plenty of strength and depth out wide left. When you look at what we have, I would take the money because we do need a right winger. We need a strike. We need obviously a central midfielder. We need a right back. So,
are you concerned about Liverpool at this stage heading into the season? Because when Andoni Iraola came in, I thought as a Bilbao legend, he slots perfectly into the sort of the community and the culture that is Liverpool Football Club. I think it fits. But ever since then, my expectations for Liverpool next season have sort of ever so slightly de-escalated because I look and think I've been so underwhelmed by the lack of business.
Yeah, they've got a really good academy. They've got a good squad as regards when they're all fit, and everyone wants another, central defender. I just think there are holes. If they fill the holes, I think we'll have a really good season. If they don't, and these ownership have always backed Liverpool, but they've done it in certain periods. They could go a window without doing a lot of business. Yeah. They might go 2 windows. But we've won 2 titles in the last 6-7 years, so you can't complain. Won a Champions League, been to another couple of Champions League finals. I don't think Liverpool, a lot of people are writing them off. I don't think they're going to be as bad as everyone thinks, and I really love this manager.
Well, I don't think you can be as bad as everyone thinks if your manager is Andoni Iraola.
Exactly.
What do you make of the standard criticism levelled at someone like Andoni Iraola, who's taken a big step from Bournemouth, a wonderful football club, by the way, to Liverpool? You can't judge them just because they've been good at Bournemouth. Do you think that is that? Yeah, you don't think that's a valid criticism?
I think you take any manager who goes to Bournemouth, who loses his whole back 4.
Yes.
And within a space of the season starts, and they took Liverpool to injury time at the start of the season. I watched that game. I was moving my daughter into college in America, and I watched it on my phone, and I couldn't believe how good Bournemouth were. This is a team that lost their whole back 4, lost other key players during the season, and then went unbeaten. How many games in the Premier League?
I mean, it was
every time he turned around, he was losing. Players are sold. This guy had a player sold every other week. They went out, they recruited, they replaced, they got on with it. That's how good a coach he is. So when I see all of the panic about Liverpool, I'm actually quite calm because I like him a lot.
Well, we'll talk about next with Ben Jacobs, the potential incomings for Liverpool. We know Bradley Barcola has been linked, but the potential for Cody Gakpo to head to Spurs. You listen to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Chris, what about Man U? I fancy United have a much better season. I think Michael deserves this job, and I do think they're going to be up there. I think they're going to push. I think they're going to be strong.
No, I do. I think I'm so happy to see Carragher's just thriving. I think, obviously, having played with him, you know what kind of character he is. He's that composed and he's intelligent, and he's obviously bringing that into one of the biggest jobs in world football. And I think the run they obviously had at the end of last season, obviously in 2026, I think they were like number one in points taken. So for him to be able to have a full pre-season, bring in whoever he likes in terms of players and just have that belief, I think there's no one better kind of, steering that ship really. And no, I'm excited to see what the season brings for them.
I think it's going to be an interesting season, Chris, all round, because so many new managers. You don't know what to expect. Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs have spent big money as well. Whether they can try and get into that top four. And obviously, the only one with a little bit of stability is probably Arsenal. But it's always hard to retain that title, isn't it?
100%. I think everyone's going to be hungrier than ever, and it is hard to kind of maintain that. You're now the golden ones that everyone wants to compete and to fight against. So I'm happy for United to be able to have that consistency from last season, because like you say, a lot of players are going to be coming, a lot of managerial changes. So I think United's got the perfect start at the minute, and hopefully hit the ground running.
Bit of politics in the break with me and Darragh. But there's always politics in football, is there not? Particularly when it comes to transfers. We're going to get the very latest from our senior transfer correspondent, Ben Jacobs. We're going to bring him in now. It's not good in the afternoon. Good morning, Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good morning.
Look, one of the things we've been talking about are the reports regarding Christian Romero. I mean, Darragh and I both agree that in terms of the culture that he represented at Spurs, and we saw that manifest itself in the way that Argentina behaved in the World Cup. Every single Spurs fan I speak to wants him gone out of the football club. He's been linked to Atletico for a long time. I know that you've been reporting that, Ben, but there have been recent links to Arsenal. We think that that's absolute pie in the sky. What's the latest when it comes to Christian Romero?
Yeah, it is pie in the sky in the sense that Spurs don't want to sell to Arsenal even if they get crazy money. And remember, Arsenal first wanted Ezri Konsa still a target, and Aston Villa's valuation was in excess of £60 million, and Arsenal were only prepared to pay half that. So if they're to proceed with Ezri Konsa, they got to up their bid. And then coming back to Romero, Tottenham, who signed Jan-Paul van Hecke 1 year left on his contract for £52 million, are obviously going to be using that kind of valuation as a starting point if they possibly can. Maybe the number drops to sell him outside of the Premier League, but if Arsenal come calling for Romero, the price would be astronomical, and even though Sol Campbell did it, there's absolutely no intent to sell to a rival, so that's going nowhere. Even though Romero was discussed internally, Inter have tried, but the overall cost of the deal is also problematic. So Atleti, even though they haven't bid yet, are probably the favourites now, and the reason why I say that is because 12 months ago they were there as well, and Romero did an interview and he said he wants to play in La Liga. So the players leaning towards that move, and now the Spanish side are expected to bid.
Ben, serious question for you. You know, I'm Arsenal. They've got some terrific centre-backs there. Yes, they've got injuries. Are they really looking at Romero? Is that where they are? Knowing the controversy that would create, knowing how difficult that would be, or is this just more nonsense from agents and media and stuff to drag it in?
I think agents can't really put that link out there because we put scrutiny on it and say, wait a minute. So my information is Arsenal have discussed the player, but it's not gone any further. They basically want a centre-back. They looked at John Stones. He went to Inter. They're still trying for Ezri Konsa, who would be the ideal choice. But Arsenal basically bid half what Aston Villa are looking for. And Romero, to some extent, just a market opportunity. At least clubs want to try their luck because maybe Tottenham are looking for an exit now. Mickey van der Ven is going to extend. They've strengthened in defence already. And as you said in your original question, the challenge with Romero is that at times for Tottenham, he didn't act like a leader. One of these strange players, like Marmite, I suppose, that can divide a fan base, because if he's on your team, you get behind him, as of course they do internationally for Argentina. But so many games we saw a loss of head, and that's the big challenge, I think, that Tottenham are happy to sell him, and maybe for a premium, because they realise they're building a new culture here. They've revamped their defence, and to a large extent he's surplus to requirements, and that's maybe why Arsenal were wondering, could we get a deal here? But the cold hard reality is if Arsenal knock on Tottenham's door, it's either going to be, we're not even answering the door, or you want this player, give us £100 million.
Ben, yesterday morning, yourself and our chief football correspondent were both reporting that Barcelona are now leading the race to sign Rodri from Manchester City, notwithstanding the loss that would be to City in a new era under Enzo Maresca. What's the latest on that? And is it the case that Real Madrid have dropped the ball here? Because it seemed to be, reading reports, that Real Madrid were in the driving seat with this one.
Yeah, Rodri wanted Real Madrid earlier in the window, and Florentino Perez hadn't decided what kind of midfielder he was going for, which is why several names were linked, including Enzo Fernandez, and Real had to issue a statement saying we've had no contact with Enzo Fernandez. Jose Mourinho came in. Finally, they got the mandate from Perez to start negotiating financially, but Barca have basically hijacked this, although some sources say Barca were there even before the window opened, and it was Real that kind of steamrolled in. And ultimately, Rodri, for family reasons, wants to go to Spain, but we've got a fascinating scenario now. Man City want to keep. Pep Guardiola never used to stand in players' ways, especially senior ones that had been long-serving and loyal to the club. But Enzo Maresca's new, and of course, if it's his say, he'll go to his board and say, keep him. If he doesn't renew, we'll let him leave on a free transfer in 2027. And now Barca are going to accelerate and bid, and they have full player buy-in. So Rodri wants Barcelona over Real Madrid, and I think there's a strong chance that this one happens. Man City are going to add another midfielder. Ayoub Boadi, advanced talks. They've got other targets as well. Elliot Anderson has already come in. And in essence, it's whether City say Rodri deserves this move and follow that Pep Guardiola approach, or if they double down and say Enzo Maresca doesn't want him to leave, so we're going to make it really difficult. Then in addition, you look at other deals in the market and you wonder what the valuation is because of his age. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, but we've seen older players and with less time on their deals go for in excess of £50 million. And I come back again to that Van Hecke deal. I seem to have said it so many times during this window, because as great as Van Hecke is, with his contractual situation and with other defenders available, the fact that Spurs paid £52 million, any other position, any other team, especially when you've got Ballon d'Or winner, best player at the World Cup, they're going to be looking at that as a yardstick. So my expectation is that Barcelona are going to have to pay over 50 million quid if they want to get this deal over the line.
Ben, we've been talking about the Vinicius Junior deal, obviously discussing whether or not Arsenal have been used as leverage or, the power that agents have. Obviously, he's at Madrid now. He's at the Bernabeu until 2032. I think that Arsenal are still missing that statement signing in terms of the forward line. What can you tell us about where Arsenal might go next now Vinny's off the cards?
Yeah, Vinny's extended 2032. I suppose Arsenal fans who got excited will now be feeling like they were a stalking horse in this deal. But Arsenal did make a strong pitch and had a genuine desire to sign Vinny Jr. Hindsight, wonderful thing. And it looks like Real Madrid upped their offer and Vinny Jr. had leverage. And now Arsenal are looking to sign a left-sided attacker. Really, they want two, according to my information. So Gabriel Jesus could go, and there's interest from both Brazil and Italy. And Arsenal, between now and the end of the window, will look for that kind of starting left winger that was originally Morgan Rogers, and then in addition to that, a more central attacker, and that's where the links with Julian Alvarez come in. And the beauty of Alvarez is that he can play in both positions. Now, with Alvarez, Atleti don't want to sell, and yet maybe if the player really agitates, they would prefer to sell outside of La Liga than within it to Barcelona. And in that respect, it could mirror the Harry Kane deal, where Daniel Levy had no intent to sell Kane to Man United, but it was a better deal and an easier negotiation for Bayern to get over the line. As of now, though, no movement, but Andrea Berta knows the player and Atletico Madrid really well. They've discussed Illiman and Jai. That was long before Morgan Rogers or the failed pursuit of Vinny Jr. They also, at that point, liked Anthony Gordon, but of course, he went off to Barcelona. And Junior Krupi, another player on the radar, but neither Bournemouth selling appetite is there, and add to the fact that the player's now injured for 3-4 months as well. So that doesn't appear to be moving either. So it feels like Arsenal are back to the drawing board now, but I agree with you. They will be looking to make another statement signing after Bruno Guimaraes, and it wouldn't at all surprise me if 2 more attack-minded players come through the door between now and the end of the window.
Wow. Talk Liverpool. Give me some good news. What have we got coming down the pipe? We got any signings due?
Well, the good news for Liverpool indirectly is that you've got Magnus Aklius joining PSG. That's one of 2 attackers that could unlock the Bradley Barcola situation. Ibrahim Mbaye as well, also at PSG. Bayer Leverkusen are in quite advanced talks there, but the player would be open to Liverpool. So 1, if not 2 attackers are still expected to join Liverpool between now and the end of the window. And people say, why haven't Liverpool bid for Barcola? Why is there no progress? The reality is you've got to read the market, and timing is everything. And Liverpool, quite smartly, are waiting on Barcola, and they're saying to PSG, you've got to drop that price of 170 million euros. And once PSG also settle upon their recruitment in wide areas with Akliouche, the first one through the door, suddenly Barcola might become a cheaper or an easier deal to negotiate. So Liverpool, I think, are being patient there as a tactic rather than just doing nothing. And then they're still going to be looking at whether they can strengthen in midfield, and they'll still give due diligence and assessment to whether another defender is needed, whether a centre-back after Ibrahima Konate or whether a right-back, despite the fact that Frimpong and Bradley are still there. But because they were in and out of the side and had injuries, is there room to maybe add a versatile fullback that could also potentially play centre-back as well? So Liverpool are going to be busy between now and the end of the window.
Ben Jacobs, brilliant stuff as ever. Thanks for joining us. That is talkSPORT senior football correspondent Ben Jacobs. Up next, we're going to be asking Darragh, how do you run a football club? Owners like Darragh, like Simon Jordan, they don't like it when there's all this criticism. So we want to get into the nitty-gritty. How do you get it done, and how do you do it successfully as well? Keep getting your calls, your WhatsApp voice notes, and your texts in 03717 223344. If you've got a question for the man to my left, get in touch. We'll finish the show with Ask Darragh. You're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony, in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Hussein, good morning.
Good morning, Shaban. Akbar Lahore. You're making me boil right now. I can't stand you, mate.
Oh.
You know, what have you won? What have you actually won, Gabby? You've not won nothing.
Yeah.
All you keep doing is just criticize Arsenal. What have you actually won?
Nothing, mate.
You know, it's actually funny that I used to like you as a striker, but now I can't even. I don't know what I used to see in you because you've won absolutely nothing. And Arsenal are gonna win stuff. They're gonna
used to
win.
like
We've
me, you
just won
said.
the Premier League. Yeah, I used to, but now.
What did you like about me though from before?
Now with your big gob. Sorry to say that. You keep criticizing Arsenal, but you just don't see how Arsenal are actually making. They're going places right now. We've just won the Premier League. You just even don't appreciate that we did that because you just don't hate Arsenal. That's your issue.
I love Arsenal.
No, you don't.
I do. Thierry Henry is my favourite player. I've got his shirt that I wear at home.
Don't insult my intelligence, Gabby, please.
I love Arsenal, mate.
No, you don't.
I do.
Right, let me finish by saying this.
Okay.
Why will not what's his name, Vini, not come to Arsenal? Because we are actually building that team. Because we are building. Why should he stay in Real Madrid? Especially what
Real Madrid
happened between him and Jose. Never. You know what? I don't know if I'm gonna get anywhere with you, but I said what I wanted to say.
With your latest sport headlines, I'm Matt Hutchinson. This morning, Ivan Toney has been charged with assault causing ABH at a London nightclub. The alleged incident happened in Soho in December of last year. Plenty more on that one at talksport.com. Elsewhere, Rodri's agent has confirmed he wants to move to Barca rather than Real Madrid this summer. But talkSPORT's Luke Moore reckons the midfielder should still be playing at the Etihad this season.
Man City, for their part, should have been moving heaven and earth to keep Rodri for that last year and say, do your deal when you want to go, but you're in contract for another year. We need you for another year to smooth this transition because we just lost a legendary coach and there's a new one coming in.
Elsewhere this morning, Gianni Infantino has received some much-needed support with two major confederations, Africa and South America, backing him. But former FIFA Vice President Jim Boyce says Infantino's values have changed significantly over recent years.
I knew him very well, as you know, when he worked for UEFA. He was an ordinary, decent person, but power and ego just seems to have completely gone to his head, I think, from Qatar and following on to his relationship with Trump in America.
Now, with just 2 weeks till the Premier League returns, a former Man United title winner has big hopes for Michael Carrick this campaign.
I'm so happy to see Carrick's just thriving. I think, obviously, having played with him, you know what kind of character he is. He's that composed and he's intelligent, and he's obviously bringing that into one of the biggest jobs in world football.
Well, Chris Smalling has been speaking to talkSPORT. He's looking for a club still after leaving Saudi side Al Fire. And West Ham co-owner David Sullivan is expected to attend their League Cup home match tomorrow. That's despite bosses at the London Stadium advising him to keep away because they're concerned his presence will cause fan unrest. It follows an investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against Sullivan, which he denies.
talkSPORT News.
With your latest news headlines, my lovely colleague Emma Smith has left them in a different folder, a few gremlins in the studio here at talkSPORT. And as I said, Ivan Toney has been charged with causing ABH at a London nightclub. Elsewhere, major rail disruption expected across the northwest until at least midday. More from Emma in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. This summer, treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza All-Season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
We're expecting a dry Friday afternoon for most of the UK. Cloudy for many, with plenty of sunny spells.
Good morning, you're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. We've just been moaning about trains, but another thing that fans are always moaning about, of course, and Darragh will know this himself, is ticket prices, but maybe not at a posh. And there's a story that's come out recently that the tickets have been released for some of the big clubs in League One. Sheffield Wednesday have come under some criticism after they announced matchday prices for their first home game of the season against Bradford. Tickets priced at £46 for adults in the South Stand, 46 quid. Leicester have also come under fire with their opening League One match against Burton, £47. Peterborough, though, most expensive ticket for Category A matches, £29.
Too cheap. Too cheap. I'm being honest with inflation, absolutely. We've been hammered with inflation the last 4 or 5 years. I think everyone has. And everything's got more expensive. I was at a massive a meeting last week with all the chiefs of my departments. I mean, you just see the prices we're paying compared to 4 years ago. Ticket prices going up doesn't match what we're paying.
Yeah.
And then you go on the players' wages. I'm not defending the big clubs. I'll defend the Sheffield Wednesday owner, David. Love him, the new owner. Had a great conversation about 3 days ago. He rang me.
Breath of fresh air.
Yeah, really, really good guy. His son's in there. And he told me the amount of money he's had to spend on that ground. That ground hasn't had any money invested inside it. You know, for a long time, they were losing sections of seats they couldn't get open. And he spent millions. Now, I'm not trying to justify that for him charging 40-odd quid. That's his business. But when you own a business, you can charge what you want if the demand is there. And I dare say, Sheffield Wednesday, when they start winning games and are up the top of League One, they'll probably have 35,000 every Saturday.
Well, look, I know I know it's a touchy subject because it's not just, you're right to say football owners spend a lot of money on tickets. Football fans, they're feeling the pinch as well. So you can understand why they're complaining about a £46, £47 ticket. But for Sheffield Wednesday, I've got a lot of affinity. My godfather's a Wednesday. I went to uni in Sheffield. It's a brilliant city. It's a brilliant football club that has been mistreated by Chancery. And so, from my perspective, and I'm not paying the money for these tickets, so maybe it's not my place to say, but I kind of think what they've been through, that club needs money to make sure that it.
Of course, but at the same time, they want players signed. They want, and there's rules in place, and they have special rules in place. I think when, if I get that right, when they came down and they had all the issues and the deal he did with the EFL and what they can sign and what they can't sign. And a lot of that will be based on income. And if they don't drive income, unfortunately, from their fan base, they're not going to be able to get the players and the signings maybe the fans want. So it's a little bit of both. We want cheap tickets and we want the best facilities and we want the best team. Well, we can't have everything. I'd love a couple of, Swedish supermodels as twins tonight and a date night if my wife would let me. But I can't get everything I want. That's life. But at the same time, 40, 50 quid for a ticket in football, yeah, it's expensive, as is 30 quid at Peterborough. But that's the world we live in. And that's what we're fighting with every day.
Yeah.
And equally, when I see a 20% pay rise on my kids' school fees or whatever else, that is the world we are in. And I can kick and scream, I can do whatever, or I can go, do you know what? I'm going to take her out of that school and put her somewhere else, or I'm not going to go to that football game.
Yeah.
That's your choice. Demand drives things.
Well, look, Darragh, this got us thinking, producer Dan and I, about how you actually run a football club. Because one thing I noticed from yourself and Simon Jordan is there's an edge to what you say, not only because you've got the experience of running a football club, but because you see it from the other side of football fans. So I want to kick this off with, if there was one thing that you could have all football fans know about the running of a football club and really understand that we as fans don't, one thing, what would it be? That might get them off your back or help the relationship between an owner and a fan base, if they truly understood the way X worked.
I think if they truly understood what it was like dealing with agents and players, and everyday deals. If you could transport a fan and make them an invisible person and tag along for a negotiation, whether that negotiation took a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, from start to finish, and see what people at football clubs have to deal with, they would imagine. Another thing I'd like fans to realise is to be in the position of being a partner of a player or an owner or a director of a club that gets abused when there's toxicity flying about. To be able to have them sit there for a day in their shoes and witness what that's like. Do you know what I mean? So they're all the things that happen in football clubs.
How do you manage that?
Well, for me, I don't care. My wife cares more. She's back in the States. She messaged the other day. She said, first time ever I was nearly going to, respond to somebody because people go, he doesn't care and he's not buying players and he's not doing that. When they say he doesn't care, and she knows I haven't seen her in 30 days.
Yeah.
Because I'm here working for the club for free, trying to get players and do deals and do whatever else. That drives the family mad. I'm missing out on my kids being home from college, all those things, the sacrifices you make. So that's where it can get personal. I'm not bothered. I always say to anyone, if you pay the price of the ticket, you can have an opinion. Opinions are like, you know what, everyone has them.
Do you think that because you're so outspoken
Yeah.
and heart on your sleeve and you say what you want to say?
Yeah, I think because I'm approachable.
Do you think that emboldens the worst elements of a football fan base, that, you know, the ones that are on Twitter that are faceless profiles? Do you think that actually that gives them ammunition? Because
Rarely did it walk up to me in a game. It's usually just on social media, or it's in podcasts, or it's whatever. Everyone's got an opinion. And like I said, as long as it doesn't get personal and it doesn't get toxic, it's fine. Sometimes it can get toxic. Like, for example, we haven't signed a player for a few weeks. And I know Adrian Durham, you're going to play a clip of him having his own opinion, which is fine. But some of the toxicity on social media from the same, say, 40 or 50 people, and they're pretty much all of them in the same age group, who are just constantly going into overdrive. And every time the club does something, because we haven't signed a player for a few weeks, they're just on the club. So I'm having meetings with the staff. We've got young staff, we've got older staff. I see the weight it puts on them, that the minute marketing puts something up about our players' training, where's all the new faces? And look at the words you've used. We thought there was a signing coming. They release a new shirt. There's a clip of it, and there's a viral campaign. And it's like, they're tone deaf because we haven't signed a player. They're not allowed to do it. And it goes down that route. And then you feel for your employees. I feel for some of these people. They're just doing their roles. Like you, Max, starting a new gig 10 years ago. Your first few days in the job, and you put up something really exciting, and then they're all on top of you because talkSPORT didn't make the signings they were meant to. So those things go on in football as well. We're a family. We have hundreds of employees at my football club. We're not perfect. We don't always get it right. We get things wrong. We make mistakes like everyone else. There is no perfect science to what I do, but I've done it for 20 years. And I'm really proud for 20 years. I've never missed a paycheck to pay my staff. And that's rare in football because a lot of clubs have gone to the wall, gone into admin, not paid their players, their staff for months, years on end, all those things. And I've also given my fans some pretty good times. Not always great times. We've had some disappointments, but for a club our size with 8,000 fans on a Saturday, fighting against the biggest clubs we are in our league, we've done pretty well over the 20 years. And I expect us to continue to do well, but it's not always going to be perfect.
Is it profitable?
No. Profitable in what way?
That you make money?
No chance. No. I'm still owed millions from Peterborough, and I've owned it 20 years. The only way I'd ever get my money back is when I sell it lock, stock, and move on. But I put in, I'll give you an example. February through to the end of June, I put in, of my own money, about £1.8 million sterling. That's just my share of what I own in the club to go in. And so it's not profitable. Our club loses $5+ million every year. We either fill that with selling players, or we fill that with ownership investment. People put stuff up online that I take money out of the club. I do all of this. Our accounts are there for everyone to see. The club still owes me millions, so no, it's not profitable. I do it because I have a passion for the club. I love the club. I love its fans. Yes, there's a small number that obviously have had enough of me, or they're of that generation that are used to success. Whereas then you get the fans who've been there 40, 50 years, who saw what Peter was like before I came, and they're like, they've loved the ride. And then you get the modern day fan who's kind of the Johnny come, what have you done for me lately? You know, shit, we haven't been at Wembley for 2 years, Darragh, what's going on? Yeah. You know what I mean? We haven't been in the playoffs for 2 years, what's going on? Well, we're Peterborough United, we're not Manchester United. We play in a league full of giants. We aim to compete every year, and we aim to upset the odds every year. But all I can be, and I said this to David the other day, the Sheffield Wednesday owner, my best advice I can give any owner coming in, be honest with the fans. Tell them the truth. Tell them when you're having a tough time. Tell them what you're trying to do, and try and communicate with them. I've always tried to do that through podcasts, through forums, through social media. I've pulled back on social media because I can get carried away with the things I say, and nowadays you get banged up over here for stuff you put in social media. That doesn't happen where I'm from in America.
You talk about the pressure that you're under. You talk about the effect that it has on your wife.
Sure.
You can deal with this that she can't. Has it ever driven you to coming close to thinking, you know what, I'm going to get out. I'm losing money here.
The money didn't, although I'd like all the money back. You know what I mean? If I could go back in time, the money I've spent on the club in my life. Because if I put this much energy into working away from football, I'd probably be a billionaire with the amount of energy and time I put into Peterborough United. And I don't get paid for Peterborough United and the work and energy I put in. When I see my kids and I miss things like they've come back from college and they've just gone to college, and my daughter's off to University of Michigan in 2 weeks' time. My wife's moving her in because I'm here. I've got EFL stuff. I've got Peterborough stuff. And then I see the abuse that goes hand in hand with that. That at times pushes me to the point where sometimes it crosses my mind. I'm not going to lie. The last year and a half, I haven't slept as well, being the owner. We haven't got a lot of things right, and it hasn't been great on the football front. I get all of that, but it's not for the want to try and I wake up every day with the same mission to improve the club, do the best I can. And people can interpret that any way they want. They can wish for another owner. They can try and drive me out, do all those things that football fans do. But the good news is, as an owner for 20 years, I have a fan base that's been incredible where they've never really done that to me. They've always been fair. I see most football clubs and they drive owners out. They say. We've got a phenomenal fan base that's just constantly there for us when we need them.
Yeah. Well, look, you've given us a pretty good insight there into the highs and lows.
Did we get a dump there because I said the D word? I was going to say that. Sorry, apologies.
That's all right, mate. But look, this will lead really well on to asking you questions. I'm sure that's prompted a lot of thoughts, whether it's from Peterborough fans, EFL fans, fans of Premier League clubs. Give us a call, 03717 22 344. You can ask Darragh. I'm pretty sure anything you want.
You get a truthful answer.
Type of bloke, you'll get the answer, or you'll get an honest answer from him. You listen to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony. In for Jim White, of course, and Simon Jordan, the legends that they are. We're on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
But the Vinny Jr. one was a audacious attempt, to say the least.
Big word for you.
I've been learning this book that I've been reading. I've got these big words in. I'm trying to keep them in my brain. No, but it was always going to be tough shit, man. Like Vinny Jr. leaving Real Madrid to come to Arsenal, it just doesn't sound right. As Arsenal fans might get angry, I'll say it, but like, imagine Neymar Jr. at Barcelona. He's not going to leave Barcelona for Arsenal. They're always going to come to an agreement. Real Madrid aren't going to let a talent like that at 26. Do you know what I mean? What's he worth on the market? I know he's got a year left, but what's he worth, Vinny Jr.? Over 100 million easily. Real Madrid are never going to let that go. And Vinny Jr. in his mind won't want to leave Real Madrid. Imagine the crowds in Brazil, the people that love Vinny Jr. because he plays for Real Madrid. I just can't see it.
Well, that is interesting because it was my understanding that it was if he wanted to leave Real Madrid. There's never been a he wants to leave Real Madrid.
He's not said it, has he?
He's looking for the right offer. He's looking at Mbappe going, can I get money close to that? Can I get a deal close to that?
Of course.
And if they're not going to give me what I deserve, then yes, I would be interested in what Mikel Arteta is doing. And don't get me wrong, Arsenal are a massive club and they are on the verge of winning the Champions League. They're looking to go back-to-back Premier League champions. They absolutely can, right? They can. So, and I think he would get them over the line, but he's Vinicius Jr.
we go then. We've gone from slamming the trains in this country, where it's an absolute national shame, to magnesium and sleep tips. We cover it all in the breaks. Just keep the mics on. Or maybe we shouldn't, actually. You're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony, in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. Coming up later, of course, keep your calls coming in. The text, by the way, Darragh, questions for you. I don't know how the producers are going to sift through them and get the best ones. There's absolutely loads. Okay. We want your voice notes as well. 03717 223344 coming through on WhatsApp. And if you want to give us a call about whatever we're talking about, or you want to bring something up, pick up the phone, start dialing. That is the number, 03717 223344. But in the meantime, it seems to me, Darragh doesn't seem too bothered about it, but world football is in all-out war. Gianni Infantino has put the ball back in UEFA and CONCACAF's court by apologising and posturing that he will keep his position as FIFA president. UEFA have responded by claiming their boycott of FIFA competitions still stands. The European governing body said Infantino hadn't provided necessary assurances about the future. The FIFA president, of course, is refusing to resign after his botched plans to sell stakes in the World Cup. The man, give him a knighthood, by the way, Martin Ziegler, who broke that story of Infantino's shady plans to the world. He spoke on the Times Game podcast, Martin Ziegler, about the tricky situation Gianni Infantino finds himself in now.
Well, the thing about that I've always thought about Infantino resigning is, in a way, that there's nothing in it for him to resign.
Right.
You know, like his life is FIFA. You know, that if he resigns, what's he going to do? So. Yeah. Is it worth him risking, you know, staying on and losing in an election? For him, I would absolutely can see that's for him. That's probably the only pathway, because you know, he probably hopes so. Maybe I can, you know, recover all these people, you know, who had previously supported me, and I'm sure there'll be various strategies. Much of it revolving around, you know, money that to be distributed to the member associations, and he'll be thinking there's this proposal to increase the World Cup to 64 teams, which is due to be decided by FIFA. Is that something which could persuade some countries to support him? So there'll be all these things going around in his head, but yeah, he's been paid $6 million a year, which obviously for him, perhaps he doesn't think he should get more. But anyway, still quite a lot of money to turn down by resigning.
Martin Ziegler from The Times, who of course has done incredible work breaking those plans for FFE to privatise and sell off stakes in the World Cup. He seems to think that he can see a world where Gianni Infantino takes this to the March election next year. Darragh, you, as far as I can remember from our chat before the show, cannot see that happening.
I think he'd probably come out in the next couple of months and say, I'm going to work till my end date, which is March next year, the election, and I'm going to endorse someone else. I'm sure there'd be a golden ticket for him somewhere to move on and basically get behind and endorse someone else.
But I can't see that, because his behaviour seems so desperate to cling on to power, whether it's reports from the Royal Moroccan Football Federation that he'd promised them the World Cup final in order for an endorsement, whether it's the claims we saw from the head of the Jordanian FA, where essentially he claims FIFA said, if you endorse us, we'll pay you the money for the prize money for the Arab Cup. He doesn't strike me as a man that is willing to lay down and just hand the baton off.
Absolutely not, because he'll see it as that he's done his job, that he's basically increasing the revenues of the game worldwide. They've had a successful World Cup. Yes, you know, Martin did phenomenal work on you know, writing a story about potentially selling bits of the World Cup for more revenue. But Infantino will say, well, that's my job. My job's to bring more revenue in for the game, spread the wealth, go into countries that don't have the infrastructure. You know, he'll have a counter argument to everything. And obviously the media stuff will die down eventually. I know you guys are bringing it up every week, and Sky run it like night and day. I was trying to say to you, us inside football, you know, it's last week's news. You know, he's not going anywhere now.
Look, I know you've got plenty more to be focusing on as an EFL owner.
I get that too.
But do you not see this as a damaging moment for world football?
No, because I always said the devil's in the detail, and I don't know enough details about what they were trying to do. I don't know where the money was meant to go. I don't know whether or not it was going to improve African federations, you know, areas that, you know, need money and infrastructure. I don't know anything about it. The media obviously reported on it. It blew up. Everyone jumped in. Obviously, I'm not an Infantino fan, by the way. Don't get me wrong, but just every single association just did the thing. We're out. But again, I don't know the details. So I always said last week in talkSPORT, I'm reserving judgment. I'm bored talking about it now because Will Infantino stay? Will he go? It's not going to make much difference to my life, my football club's life today or tomorrow. So my best estimation is that he will stay on until March.
Mm-hmm.
He will get behind and endorse a new person, and that will be getting worked on in the coming months. You said basically he's hanging in there. Well, the last week would have said to him and sent the message, you know what? Everything you do is going to get leaked now. It's untenable. So now what you've got to do is you've got to get yourself a soft landing somewhere after this. So I would imagine he'll walk away with a few quid. He'll walk into a new opportunity somewhere else, and we'll be talking about something different after March.
Just quickly, because I know that you're fed up with this. I'm not. And I'll keep
I know.
But
you're outraged.
I am outraged, and it's not confected. I think it's been an absolute disgrace, and I back that. But I want to get your take on boycotting. UEFA say their threat of boycotting FIFA competitions still stands. Do you think that? I mean, we rarely see this, even with the Super League stuff that UEFA announced. Yeah. And I know part of your point is that there's that correct and understandable cynicism
of it all,
that UEFA is standing against, and it was only 5 years ago that they were threatening to destabilise the very fabric of domestic football in Europe. So I understand that. But UEFA are saying that their threat to boycott still stands. Do you think boycotting in football is an effective or appropriate form of protest?
No, I think it's an awful way to negotiate. It's an awful way to get to a table and get what everyone needs. I don't like strikes. I don't like boycotts. It's not something I fundamentally agree with.
But what about when you're working in an environment, which FIFA seems to be, in my opinion, very dictatorial and authoritarian? It's not transparent. And, this one man makes the decisions, it seems to me.
Unless I'm wrong, I believe for what he was trying to do, selling shares of the World Cup in a separate company and bring more revenue in, I believe there was going to be a vote. So I believe that's fundamentally democracy. As much as you don't like all the optics of it, I believe it was going to go to a vote, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So it wasn't signed and done.
But it was autocratic. It was authoritarian in the fact that the deals and the agreements had been made, not with nobody else's awareness and understanding.
Well, hang on. When you're running a federation or a business, whatever, your job is to expand the game, bring more revenue, whatever. What you're meant to consult with 50 million people. You're meant to go out to every single person.
About something as gargantuan as selling off stakes in the World Cup. I think that you proposed the idea first.
We don't know what they were selling. I haven't seen the detail. You guys are speculating. Again, it's a bit like Ben before saying about Arsenal and his source. I don't know. I'm only going off someone's word. That's their credibility on the line. And I'm not backing Infantino's credibility. All I'm trying to say to you is that we're making this massive, big story about selling off the World Cup. We don't know what was getting sold, and we don't know the benefit to all the federations worldwide. We don't know if the FA were going to get an extra 30 million a year that would have gone into impoverished areas with no money and build football pitches and help kids. We don't know all of that because we killed it. So it's consult with everyone and go, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you all think?
Yeah, Darragh,
that's not how it works.
I take your point that, down the line, this could just repeat itself.
Yeah, it will.
Because we were all delated. Well, lots of people have been delighted when Infantino came in because we saw what happened under Sepp Blatter.
Sure.
The irony again of not just UEFA, but Sepp Blatter looking like a saint, trying to look like a saint in all this.
I get it.
That isn't lost on me. And yes, I don't necessarily think a change of person means automatically root and branch change.
Sure.
In
but it's
FIFA.
still democratic, right? Everything still has to go through a voting process. Every federation still has to vote for any deal that happens.
Yeah.
So no matter what we all say, no matter all the stuff, it's still a no, because as we've seen, everyone came out and said no, all the main federations. That's why they've moved on.
Yeah.
And obviously the guy in America pulled his money, because obviously the media jumped all over it. And if it wasn't for the World Cup thing and the Trump connection and everything went on in the summer, who knows? Maybe it would have been a good thing for football. We'll never find out. Maybe the next person who comes in charge, maybe they might explore other things. But here's what's going to happen down the line. This is happening in all sports. The EFL, the Premier League, all these big organisations, how do you know they won't do something similar in 10, 20, 30 years' time? Capitalism, revenue, income, it's what every club, every person wants. So nothing's off the table in any sport. So, but we've seen how it got handled this summer. Infantino and his PR people and his leaks in his department didn't handle this well at all. A disaster. And Gianni, in my opinion, will be gone by March.
Happy days. Darragh said he didn't want to talk about it, but we had a good old chat and we've gone over. Loved it, Darragh. Thank you very much. You're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
your thoughts on Vinicius Junior? Then Arsenal losing out in that. Were you hopeful or were you doubtful?
Do you know what? I was a little bit in the middle, really. I thought, look, he's a player that would be certainly improve Arsenal. There's no doubt about that. He's got so much talent. But also, he's at Real Madrid, like Andy Townsend said. Why would you want to leave Real Madrid, as Andy says? But whether he wanted a different change of lifestyle and whatever, whether he wanted to go to London, I don't know. But I think what he's done, he's played the market, isn't he? So he's gone, right, we know Arsenal are interested. His agent's probably going to Real Madrid. Well, Arsenal, we're thinking about going to Arsenal, and they've panicked a little bit, probably got an unbelievable deal now, 6-year contract. And he's gone, right, okay, yeah, I'll stay then. Yeah. Done. And so he's played both sides, really, which a lot of agents do, a lot of players do as well. But I was always 50-50, really. If he comes to the club, great. But if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely, you move on from it. I mean, it's absolutely dead now. He is staying at Real Madrid for 6 years, as you mentioned. But, you know, how important was that to get that idea that Arsenal were starting to flirt with world-class players, with somebody who would be a marquee signing?
You've got to do that. You've got to do that.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, you've got to do that.
They've done it. The champions got a final. You know, why wouldn't you?
And the club's in a really good position at the moment with finances and whatever. I mean, Josh Kroenke's really stepped it up another level really now and he trusts the manager Arteta to say, right, you know, we're going to really go with him and see what he needs.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning with the latest news headlines. I'm Emma Smith. There's more travel trouble for rail passengers across the northwest and Greater Manchester today. A brief power cut yesterday caused delays and cancellations across the network. It also left trains in the wrong place overnight, so it could take a while to get things back to normal. Meta has been hit with a £420 million fine in the US over claims its platforms put young people at risk. A court's ordered the Facebook and Instagram owner to pay the money to address the harm linked to its platforms. Meta says it will appeal. Laurie Scott, whose daughter took her own life after seeing harmful content online, says the ruling is a welcome step.
The judge sent out a really strong ruling about recommendations, about content restrictions, about removing the like button, push notifications for children.
There have been more arrests after a third night of anti-immigration protests in Thetford. Norfolk police say crowds targeted homes housing suspected asylum seekers, with one officer bitten. 2 men were arrested, taking the total to 5. And Andy Burnham's been told to rein in his bloke next door style on social media. The Prime Minister's videos about football, pubs and everyday life have gone down well online, but his advisors are keen for a better mix of fun content and politics.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For workable, easy-to-apply mortar that tools easily, pros trust Bostik.
England's Ivan Toney has been charged with assault causing ABH at a London nightclub, and Christian Romero has agreed terms with Atletico Madrid. Uma has more at midday.
Good morning, Max Scott, Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. Getting a lot of love in the text this morning, Darragh.
Oh, I've got my wife's been on, has she?
Yeah, all the burner phones. She says, just want to say Darragh is intelligent, straight-talking, and best of all, he doesn't sound so angry at the world. So refreshing, JG. This one's got no name on. Love listening to Darragh talk sense. He's like a successful Simon Jordan.
That's really funny. Stop comparing me to Simon. Simon's old news, all right? He hasn't been around. He hasn't owned a club for 20 years. He's successful in the media now, and he does that better than anyone.
I'll frame that. But do you reckon you've got a career in the media?
Oh, the money you guys offer me? Yeah, of course. That was my agent in between the break on, Sky want you back on doing that show. I'm like, dude, I'm too busy. But I love you guys, so I always give a commitment of like 10, 11 episodes every summer.
Happy days.
So, and I do that. Uncle Rupert pays me the most, so I'll do it when I can.
Happy days.
Enjoy it.
Lots of love for Darragh. Me and Darragh in next Monday and Tuesday as well. Lots more to look forward to. Thanks for the text. Keep them coming in. And if you've got any questions for Darragh, we're going to be doing a long section at the end of the show. Ask Darragh McAnthony. Anything is on the table. But time now to catch up on the odds, all thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
Delighted to say we're now joined by Dan Towse from BetMGM to look at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. Dan, good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Morning, gents. You okay?
Yeah, doing well, mate. I mean, not going to lie, I know we've had the World Cup and all of that sort of stuff, but I just cannot wait for live football. I was on Drive yesterday and the Moose came on to do some hits on Bristol were playing Walsall last night. They lost, actually, so shock result. And just hearing his voice and the fans in the background, it feels good. Tonight, though, we've got Borough Wrexham live on talkSPORT. Brilliant game in the AFL Cup. What have you got for us in terms of the League Cup and the previews coming ahead?
Yeah, you're not wrong. It feels a bit weird talking about the League Cup before the league season has begun, 19 days after the World Cup final. But it's good to have some domestic competitive matches again. I've just picked out a couple of games on the fixture list. I'm going to look at the weekends. And Middlesbrough went out in the first round last year at home to Doncaster. They were odds on at 4-6 to get past Wrexham. And to be fair to them, haven't mucked about their pre-season. I think they faced 4 Premier League sides as part of their pre-season programme. So you think they might be well drilled. West Ham, who are appearing in the first round of the League Cup since 2011, they host Portsmouth at the London Stadium. Obviously, we've seen some big names depart over the summer, the likes of Fernandez and Somerville leaving the Hammers, but they're the strong odds-on favourites to get past the South Coast side, just over 4-1. And then just wanted to mention 2 more games. West Brom, Darragh, you said earlier in the week that they caught your eye in the pre-season game versus...
Like them.
Yeah, they head to Rotherham and they'll be in League 2 this season, as you'd expect. West Brom go there as clear favourites. And Darragh, Peterborough themselves heading down to Bristol Rovers. 3 wins in pre-season, slight favours at 8-5, home side at 13-10 and the draw at 5-2. But could have been an easier start to the cup competition for you.
No, Stevie's my ex-manager, so he'd be basically threatening his players within an inch of their lives if they don't put the performance on. I know what he's like. So, that wasn't the best draw to get. But listen, Bristol Rovers are always very welcoming. Looking forward to going there tomorrow.
Talk to us as well, Dan, about the Scottish Premiership. I mean, we had we didn't have a pop at Scottish football, but we had a little bit of a discussion at the start, at the top of the show, regarding sort of Derek McInnes' start at Rangers. What have you got for us in terms of the preview for that?
Yeah, as you mentioned in the show, Rangers unexpectedly lost their first leg of their Europa League qualifier last night when they went down 2-1 in Poland. Max, I'm not going to try and attempt what you did, which was name the side that they played.
Yeah, I did that. Butchered it. I apologise to our
I thought you'd done very well. I attempted it earlier in the week, and it didn't make sense to me now listening back. But they went down in Poland. Hearts, obviously, they got trounced, didn't they, by Benfica? And unless they turn around a miracle at Tynecastle, they'll likely drop into the Conference League. But domestically, the 3 at the top of the market for the SPFL title, all in action on Sunday this weekend. Celtic head to Kilmarnock. They've already got a head start over their closest rivals and as short as 1-3 to go there and extend their lead at the top of the table before Hearts host Dundee United at 3, and then Rangers an hour later have got Hibs at Ibrox. It's only the second game of the season, but Hearts and Rangers, even at this stage, we think they can't afford to drop points despite only being 2 games. Celtic remain the clear favourites at 1-2 for the title. Rangers 8-5 and Hearts are a lot bigger at 14-1.
Darragh, when you look at the SPL table, Celtic already ahead.
Yeah.
Can you see a world where where they never slip below first for the rest of the season, or do you think it's more competitive than we'll maybe giving them credit for?
I think for Celtic, obviously with the Champions League, all the distractions they go through, if they go through the group stage and whatever else, it'll change. I think Rangers have spent a lot of money. Celtic will spend. I don't think it'll be as one-sided as you think. It's far too early.
Well, we hope that's the case because it was an absolute blockbuster one last season.
It was.
And Dan, I didn't put this in, by the way. My producer, Dan, was like, we need to do a Nottingham Forest season preview. Because sometimes I get texting saying, it's Talk Forest, as if we're constantly talking about Forest on TalkSport. But we're going to do it anyway. Why not? Nottingham Forest preview. Look, Oliver Glasner, unbelievable appointment. An elite manager. The players are incredibly happy. What are the odds saying around Forest this season? We know that the ambition from Mr. Marinakis is always going to be re-establishing the club back in European football on a regular basis. People thought he was crazy when he said that the day after we got promoted to the Premier League in the city centre. And he has gone and delivered that. But the key, clearly, is for that to be consistent. What's the likelihood, or certainly what are the odds saying with regards to Forest and what they might achieve this season under Glasner?
Yeah, well, look, top 4 you're 33-1, top 6 8-1. But I think that the key bit which you keep mentioning there is the word Glasner. I think last season obviously struggled in the league, had a good run in the Europa League, but you've got no European football to worry about this season. Glasner has got an excellent CV, despite being a Brighton fan. What he did at Crystal Palace was excellent. He won the FA Cup, the Conference League, Community Shield. He's also won the Europa League at Frankfurt. So you've got a tried and tested manager there. You've got a tough start, haven't you? You've got Leeds at home, then I think you head to Anfield, and then you've got Spurs, and then off to Villa. So look, there's no easy game in the Premier League, but on paper, there could have been easier teams to kick off your season. What's your realistic expectations for Forest this year? What would you take now if we offered it to you?
I'd take 10th for the next 3 seasons. And I know that isn't consistent with the ambition right at the very top of the club. I was lucky enough to spend a bit of pre-season last week, and whether it's the kit man, the chef, the recovery scientist newly appointed, the staff, they're all singing off the same hymn sheet.
Is that why you call him Mr. Marinakis? Because you were with them on pre-season?
I call him Mr. Marinakis. It's pleasant. It's Mr. Marinakis to you, certainly, Darragh. And I think, and he probably won't be happy if he heard that, but I would love it if we were just 10th for the next few seasons, because it's been blockbuster since Forest has been in the Premier League, so much to talk about. I'd be happy if it was just for some consistency, and I want Glasner to have a minimum of 2 years. Now, if he gets Forest some silverware, or if he gets Forest Europe, then other clubs might come knocking on that door. I'm fully aware of that.
He's one of the highest paid managers in that league, isn't he? So, and I think you'll do better than 10th.
You reckon?
I do.
I mean, better than 10th is pretty much European football as well.
I think the owner's so ambitious in his defence. I was saying this before he came on, that he gets a lot of hammering here. He's got big pockets. And to get Glasner in there, away from some of the other clubs Glasner was talking to, I fancy them top 7.
We'd love that. I mean, that to bring back, for a generation of us that had just been listening to our dads and granddads tell us about memories of Europe, to actually go and follow Forest in Europe was unbelievable. Yeah. So it's good to see that that's reflected in the odds. I do think the club need to, as ever, I would be saying this as a fan, bring in some more signings.
More signings.
But look, I think regardless, what you can say about Forest last season, I'm sure, I hope you agree, Darragh, is on paper, they shouldn't have been where they were.
No.
And, really and so even if there isn't anything else to come in, I just think you look at the players that are available and the depth that's already
top
there.
Half squad
should be top half. Minimum.
Yeah, I think probably another striker. Because obviously Chris Wood's been injury prone the last.
Yeah, he was spent most of the time out.
The one season he was fully fit, you were pretty much up there in the Champions League stakes. If they can get that area right in the pitch, I think they've got the ingredients pretty much everywhere to be a very, very good force.
Music to my ears. Dan, any more Forest odds for next season?
Well, just two more very just on domestic trophies. So I always think there's a massive opportunity for a club outside the top 5 or 6, as we keep talking about, is I think the League Cup, 33-1 to win the League Cup. You haven't won it since 1990. I remember that. Beat Oldham, and then even going further back, and I wasn't about for this one, was the last time you won the FA Cup was 1959, and you're 41 to win that. Albeit, you need a little bit of luck. You need a little bit of luck in the draw, and you need to keep your big players fit. But I always think there's an opportunity for a team outside the big ones to go deep into these competitions. And I think Forest have a good season. I think not having European football, you want to stay top of 10, I think is a big benefit. And I definitely seen as something Darragh, you and Crookie spoke about earlier in the week, that clubs who appear in European football tend to drop off the following season because they haven't got deep enough squads, especially when you're looking at Europa Leagues and Conference Leagues. And I think a club like Forest are deep in history, got an excellent squad, and like I said, a brilliant manager. I think do a lot better than people expect this year.
Couldn't agree more, boys. What an absolute Forest loving. Derby fans listen will absolutely love that. Dan, as ever, an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, mate. That was a look at the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
without fire. Of course not. He is interested in the Arsenal project.
Arsenal
if he's to leave Real Madrid.
Arsenal going for Vinny Jr. is like me sending Rihanna a message on Instagram saying that I'd love you to come to the Bullring in Birmingham. I want to take you around Birmingham on a date. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, he's not leaving Real Madrid to come to Arsenal, one league title in over 20 years, can't win a Champions League in their whole existence. He's not going to come to Arsenal. He's used Arsenal to get an extra 5, 6, 7, 8 million pound a year, and he's going to sign a new contract at Arsenal. I mean, sign a new contract at Real Madrid. Simple. What he's doing. Arsenal have been used.
Did you ever shoot your shot with Rihanna though? Did you ever do it?
I might have. Yeah, I might have. That's private business. I might have.
But the point is, we know that Arsenal have made a go at Vinicius Jr. So they've tried.
And maybe I tried, and it didn't work out.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, but it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for Arsenal, is it?
You make me cringe.
No, one league title in over 20 years. Never won the Champions League. Can't sit at the big table of the Champions League winning clubs like Villa, Nottingham Forest, Celtic. And you think you're going to go and sign Vinny Jr., the fan base that Vinny Jr.'s got in South America because he plays for Real Madrid.
It's not.
Rodri's doing everything he can probably to get out of Manchester City to go to Real Madrid. Haaland will go to Real Madrid at some point in his career.
It's not dead yet.
Max Scott, Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Now, we're going to chat a little bit about the relegation battle. We were just chatting with BetMGM, Dan from BetMGM, talking about the sort of the risks of European football for some of these smaller clubs that have done incredibly well last season, that have got European football. We saw it with Forest last season, the pressure that brings. I'm going to get Darragh's take on that. But just got a text, because we're teasing the Ask Darragh McAnthony later on. Some of these questions have been amazing. I just wanted to put this to you, Darragh, particularly in the light of the transfer window, some of the conversations we've been having about agents, about fees, etc. Essentially, the question is, when deciding, this was from a Peterborough fan, when deciding to sign players, does Darragh trust human eyes and experience, or does he go by statistics and computer predictions? We've seen with Brentford the rise of data, but you cannot, also the eyes don't lie. Where do you...
So no, what you've just said there is right. Like Barry Fry's favourite saying is the eyes don't tell lies. So what we do is, I've been doing data for 20 years since I bought Peterborough, long before everyone else. We went down a data route, but no player gets signed without the eyes. And the eyes, the final set of eyes, funny enough, is Barry Fry's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always trusted Barry Fry's eyes. Now, obviously, if we're signing someone from Albania or some, far-reaching distance, it ain't Barry Fry. But what will happen is we will have a list of players. We will analyse. We have analysts who work for me. We've got gem scouts. We go watch them 4 or 5 times.
Do you go and watch them because the data says go watch them?
We go watch them because of that, the profile, the age, all those little things. Everyone's doing the same thing, by the way. Everyone's signed up to the same statistical sites. They're all having it off. We're all paying stupid money for these things. I wish it was like years ago where it was just getting in cars and going to games, because I love the old school type scouting. But after we've done that, we go out and do 4 reports on them. The manager and his staff have to watch and they have to like. And if they do, then obviously Barry Fry will go. And obviously when he goes and watches, he'll either ring me at halftime and say, look, I've got him in the boot of the car, it's done. Or what we do, Stevie Wonder can see he's not a player. So, that will usually happen. So we've had more things like that happen like you wouldn't believe. So, but nowadays as well.
So the stats do lie sometimes.
Stats do lie all the time. Absolutely. Don't always just believe stats. I used to say, data and stats are the window to the soul to a certain extent. Stats can't tell you if you're employing a serial killer.
Yeah.
Stats can't tell you if you're employing somebody who's just a wrong'un.
Yeah.
Or stats can't tell you you're employing someone who's soft and who's never going to be anything but soft. So there's so many facets to it in ways now. People now are talking about shrinks coming in and actually meeting potential signings. That's going to go on in football.
What do you make of that? So as in to have some sort of psychological assessment.
I agree players should see shrinks. I think managers should as well. I think there's a lot of stress in the game. One of my ex-players, Jermaine Anderson, came to see me last week. He went back to school and became a qualified therapist.
Wow.
And he
Fair
wants
play
to,
to him.
yeah, his career, he should have gone to Brentford and Sheffield Wednesday. We had bids, and he did his ACL, and it killed his career. And at 29, he decided to go back and get a master's. And now he's a qualified, basically. I love that about him. I'm going to have him on my podcast because he's going to basically see players. And I think it's great for players. I'm not sure about interviewing someone for potential transfer. You're going to sit him in a room with their agent who's already a nightmare and put a shrink on the couch in between. I ain't sure that's going to happen or it's going to work. I've had agents send me forms, and other clubs are basically making people fill in. If I showed you some of these forms, it would blow your mind. And these forms are designed to ascertain what kind of character you are. But when you see the questions, it's just, that's the world we're in now, by the way.
Well, I was going to ask you about this because a lot is made of, and, we know about the type of character assessments that go on in terms of clubs want to know the type of player they get in, the friends around them, the family, etc. What does that actually look like in reality?
Yeah, look, it's really difficult because the other thing you tend to do is ring people in the game. So you'll ring someone and go, such and such player. Like we had a player not so recently, and we were pretty much sold on the player, but we needed to know more, and he'd been on loan. So we had Barry ring the owner of the club. He had a relationship, and the owner of the club was like, don't touch him with a barge, pal, and give you all the reasons why. We've had that about managers. Then I've had people tell me not to sign Lee Tomlin 20-odd years ago, and he turned out to be one of the best signings ever because I know, I fell in love with him. I wanted Lee Tomlin. But we got told he was a wrong and he was this, he was that. He was just a lovable rogue.
So how do you know then who to listen to? Because like you say, just someone else's assessment of somebody might be incorrect, might be inaccurate.
So sometimes you'll do what's called a punt. And you just go with your gut and you take that punt. And that punt could blow up in your face, or that punt could be the best thing ever. We got told Ivan Toney was useless in all 5 loans he'd been on. And we just had a feeling that if we got him on a permanent, instead of another Lone Ranger move, we could turn him into something special. Yeah. And we took a punt. We spent like 280 grand on a punt that turned into 10 million. That can happen, and the other side of it can happen too.
When you talk about the psychology of the game, players get paid incredibly well.
Yep.
They, the cars, the money, the fame, the success, but it can't
too early sometimes. Too early,
absolutely. But also, they're under an incredible amount of pressure, maybe more so than ever before in terms of the limelight, in terms of the media, etc. What work do you do, or does Peterborough as a club do?
Yep, starts in the academy. So our academy, brilliant. It's run by one of the best people who can run an academy, Dan. We have a Cat 2 Tier 2 academy, and we now basically do sessions with our under 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, prepping them for what's to come, prepping their parents about agents, prepping them about the horrible side of football, making sure they finish school, make sure they get their exams, make sure there's a plan B, because after all, I think it's 3-4% of them go on to be professional footballers. It's a horrible statistic. So I'm telling you, 95% of the time you're going to fail. You better have a plan B in place.
Yeah.
And a lot of these young players who have hot air blown up their backsides by agents don't have a plan B. And I even say to players now, Max, I had a player I was talking about signing, and I'm still hoping to sign. And I was saying, look, you're at the back end of your career. Have you thought about coaching? Players like, I'm not really interested. I'm like, what are you going to be when you give up? But I'm sure you haven't got the money where you can basically retire at 34, 35. I want all good players to go into coaching because I think what makes our game better are some of the better players take that into coaching.
Yeah.
So I always encourage my former ex-players, current players, do your badges. We'll help you pay for them. Because you want a real complaint about FIFA, UEFA, it's the cost of doing badges to be qualified to be a coach. It's absolutely disgusting.
And you help players pay for it?
I will help them and say, the only thing I'll say is if you leave and you get another job, you pay me back then. In other words, if I paid 15 grand or whatever and help you towards the life, some of them are 15 to 20 grand. You guys need to, instead of obsessing about, Gianni and selling the World Cup, dig into some of the real things in football that are ridiculous. And I mean ridiculous.
Fair play. I mean, that's a little bit of an insight into what we're going to get for Ask Darragh at the end of the show. We were going to talk about the relegation fight, but absolutely fascinating insight, Darragh. Love that. Stay tuned. We've got the news and then much more chat coming up in the final hour of White and Jordan here with me, Max Scott, and Darragh McAnthony. One minute I'm doing this, I finish at 10:15. There's a car outside. I'm like, what's going on? Straight down to Addenbrooke's, Cambridge.
Okay.
And a few hours later, wallop, they open me up and stick a new liver in there. So I did have cancer on my liver.
Did you?
And we suspected that for months, to be honest. But they didn't want to go in and touch it and shake it up in case you could make it spread, But anyway, they decided that, first of all, they said the perfect match came in, or else I might still be waiting.
Yes.
And people who know what I'm talking about, who are on the list, you can wait 18 months. You can go down there, get ready to have the op, and they say it's not quite right. Go away, come back. We'll phone you later, maybe in a few weeks, and it can be murder. It can be terrible. But I was so lucky. I went down there and they said we've got one, and it looks perfect. So we're going to do it now. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So they eject you all over, and you think you have to sign a few forms.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And you get carried in there, and it's like, goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. Just it's a massive
Wife's
operation.
in tears, and it's horrible.
But you knew though, didn't you, Al? Before that, you knew. When you were on air here and you felt dizzy and you had to come off. Yeah. You knew something was.
Well, that was the stage where I had to get it done, or it was see you later.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise it was that extreme, but it was. They told me, said another couple of weeks you were gone.
Good afternoon with your headlines at 12. I'm Uma Gurav. Ivan Toney has been charged with assault causing ABH at a London nightclub. The alleged incident happened in Soho in December last year. Elsewhere, it's looking like next stop Barcelona for Rodri. His agent has revealed he wants to move to the Nou Camp rather than Real Madrid this summer. talkSPORT senior transfer correspondent is Ben Jacobs.
This is astonishing because Rodri wanted Real Madrid. Real Madrid had got a mandate financially from Florentino Perez to start conversations with Manchester City.
Now, talkSPORT understands Christian Romero has agreed personal terms with Atletico Madrid. Sources tell us Spurs are willing to sell him for £35 million. On the other side of North London, Arsenal are expected to confirm their £75 million signing of Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle today. That's after he completed a medical last night. Now, as we edge closer to the return of top-flight football, a former Man United title winner has pledged his support for Michael Carrick.
For him to be able to have a full pre-season, bring in whoever he likes in terms of players and just have that belief, I think there's no one better kind of steering that ship, really. And no, I'm excited to see what the season brings for them.
Chris Smalling's been talking to talkSPORT. He's looking for a club after leaving Saudi side Al Fayha. Meanwhile, Mo Salah says joining Turkish side Trabzonspor on a 2-year deal is a unique feeling. The Egyptian's been mobbed since arriving in Istanbul.
The last couple of days, it's an experience I never had in my life. I just want to thank every one of you for being here today and yesterday. You showed me so much love. I want to win something with this club.
And assistant ref Sian Massey Ellis, who was the second woman ever to officiate in the Premier League, has retired to take up a role with the FA. She'll be developing the next generation of female officials.
talkSPORT News.
The number of migrants arrested for working illegally in the UK has more than doubled, and rail passengers in the Midlands and the north of England face delays for the rest of the day. Sinead has more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Heatwave outside, oven inside. Stay cool this summer with a free aircon check. Book online or visit your local QuickFit today.
We're expecting a dry Friday afternoon for most of the UK. Cloudy for many, but plenty of sunny spells.
Good afternoon, you're listening to Max Scott, Darragh McAnthony here on talkSPORT, in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. We were meant to chat a relegation battle in the Premier League in the previous section, but Darragh's has given us some fascinating insight into the world of transfers and the challenges of football owners to get deals done and all of the stuff that goes behind that. So let's get into it now, Darragh. This Premier League season, obviously 3 newcomers. You've got some clubs like Sunderland, like Brighton playing European football. What's your initial thoughts about how things are going to play out?
It's really, this is the fascinating thing about the Premier League. It's getting so much stronger. And even the clubs coming up, and you saw it last year. Your club a few years ago kind of set it in motion by spending 100 million, and everyone's like, what are Forest doing? This could be a disaster. And actually, they rebuilt, and it's led to Forest turning them into what they are now.
Sunderland, I think, followed suit.
Right, Sunderland followed suit, went bang, we're going to spend 100 million. It's worked. I would imagine now Ipswich, Coventry. I love Doug, the owner of Coventry. They've spent 60, 70 million. They're probably going to continue spending. So I can't call it. You would say some clubs is their second season syndrome, and some Sunderland fans might be fearful, but you look at it and you go, they've got some strength and depth in their squad. And by the way, like some good players in that squad as well. They've obviously got very wealthy owners. It's a big football club. So Fulham obviously are the one you go. Manager, I didn't really overly rate him at Real Madrid. They're bringing Spanish players in.
64% win percentage at Madrid, which
is poor for Madrid standards. Now, anything under 80% is poor in Madrid. So Silva was a brilliant manager for Fulham. So you're wondering the hangover of him leaving. You got Spanish players who take sometimes a little while, young Spanish players, to adjust. They do take a while. So maybe there might be some concerns there. We don't know. I look at the 3 coming up and I go, in my opinion, Coventry are the favourites out of M3 to stay up. My opinion.
Why is that?
Before Ipswich fans come at me, Hull fans, I look at the goals. And I know you're going to say championship goals and whatever else. I just look at the way Lampard plays. He had experience where he was in a dog battle with Everton. So you got a manager with experience of dealing with the stress of that. I think that's going to be really advantageous. I know Gary O'Neill.
And a manager that is a Premier League legend in his own right.
He is. But that means nothing now. He's a manager. And I think he's a superb manager. And I was hot on criticising him for getting opportunities other people wouldn't get early on. But I love the fact and respected the fact he dropped down and took Coventry. You know, when obviously Robbins had done a good job, but it was going stale. Walked in when they were, 5th, 6th bottom. And the football last year was great to watch. Because we obviously earned like a good 7-figure amount from Ephraim Mason-Clark as part of the deal we sold him to Coventry. And we're getting another 7 figures should they stay up. But I honestly think, I look at their personnel, their players, the attack, the way they play. I think they'll be good.
So I make you right. And I think that of all, look, and this is no slight on Ipswich, it's no slight on Hull. Just because they've been out for 25 years and we saw the CBS absolutely rocking in the relationship that Frank Lampard's built with the fans, you know how important that can be in terms of the atmosphere.
Big club.
I think the CBS is going to be a difficult place to go.
Yeah.
When I look at Forest staying up, the City Ground was an absolute cliche fortress, and you didn't want to go there. So I think that their home form is going to be solid this season, and I do expect them to be the side most likely to stay up. However, I also look at Ipswich and what the football club, I know there's been personnel change. Sure. Well, the football club has learned from what was in reality, there were elements of that where I think they could have stayed up when you look at the points that season. So I think the club will have learned. And I like the fact they've got a young English manager. That there aren't enough of those in the Premier League getting the opportunities. So I think they've got a really decent chance as well. If one or two are going to inevitably stay up, who are you? I mean, you've mentioned Fulham. Are there any other sides that you may be looking at?
I can't call it because I looked at last year and the points it took to stay up, and that changed as well from previous years. It's becoming so much stronger now. I'm looking at Middlesbrough in the Championship, who are behaving like a Premier League club with the signings they're making. This industry of ours is just, it blows your mind sometimes. So I look at the Premier League and I couldn't, if you said to me, you got to pick me 4 clubs nailed on, 3 of those are going down, your life depends on it. I couldn't, I'd probably get them all wrong. And I've probably got this one wrong as well about
without a doubt.
Coventry, Ipswich,
predictions is a fool's game, but it's what football fans do.
If I was to pick any, I would say obviously your usual favourites. I'd imagine Hull are they the first favourites because they still have a lot of business to do, so that could change. Ipswich need goals potentially, and that was I think the issue last time. And even though obviously they had the Man City boy they sold to Chelsea, Delap, but he still didn't score enough to keep them up. So they really, I think there's goals in Coventry. And I just think in that league, you score enough goals, the goals in the team, for teams who struggle, that keeps you in that league. And I do worry about those 2 newcomers. Fulham, the model of signing these Madrid boys, these younger players, losing Harry Wilson, the goals, the assists, even the Menes, they've lost players, they've scored goals last year. I'm slightly concerned for them.
I agree. I think it's a bit of a punt getting Arbeloa in. Yeah, great.
But we could look like morons.
Of course we could. just like so many of us did with Keith Andrews and Brentford last year. And they lost their opening game at the City Ground 3-1 and everyone was thinking, we're right here. We're oracles. And then he did a tremendous job. And so this is nobody wishing ill on somebody.
I rated Silva so strongly and the job he did because I think he's the best Fulham manager and they've had in years and years and years. And I think that was the biggest body blow for them losing him. Now, some fans might say, well, it got stale or whatever else, but you weren't really struggling under him ever. There was never really any danger the last 4
You might not have got European football, which you could have done.
But you didn't wake up on a Saturday thinking, my God, we need 3 wins out of the last 5 games to stay up. Like, they didn't have that the last 4 years. So that's a body blow, him leaving. I think it was bad for the Premier League, him leaving.
Why is it that football fans... Because I have to check myself on this.
Yeah.
I am primarily, I know this is my job, I'm a football fan, I'm a Forest fanatic. And so I'm acknowledging football fans, myself included, can be very fickle.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm surprised to hear myself say I'd be happy with 10th for 3 seasons.
Sure.
Because, you look at Fulham fans and look, Fulham fans are great. Fulham fans aren't like, many. It's a very polite place. It's quite quiet. And I think from what I hear, players enjoy playing there because they've got a slightly less pressure on their shoulders. Having said that, there was a little bit of, frustration that they hadn't got Europe. They felt they had. But maybe they should just be happy. Do you think there's this constant need for more? Where does that come from?
It's like my fans, and I haven't got a problem with it because I built my life in being ambitious. And I always said, like my dad would say to me when I was being uber successful in my 20s, why are you never happy? And my answer always was, the minute you say you're happy and content, it stops.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So you have to wake up with a desire and a hunger every day for every day to be better than yesterday. And every success you've had to emulate that success and want it more. And that's key to life. Everything you do, from going to school to going to work to building a business, owning a sports franchise, you don't want a loser's mentality of, well, we'll be just happy to stay in the Premier League or we'll just be happy to whatever. You want to win. So why else would you live life and why else would you get up for work every day?
Yeah, no, fair play. Gabby Bonlor is back on Drive this afternoon. He's given his sort of predicted, bottom half of the table, or bottom part of the table. 15th, Leeds United.
Okay.
Who've got unbelievable signing Harry Wilson, James Trafford, but
I love
arguably
Trafford
England's next number one. You could argue great pedigree, but 15th.
Yep.
Just we'll go through the rest of it later. But on Daniel Farke, another manager who lots of from what I heard, and I obviously didn't do a straw poll of the entire city of Leeds.
Sure.
But for my money, they all wanted him out.
They did.
Part of the
they
season.
did. And then he went
was
3 at the
another
back.
one, a bit like Keith Andrews. Pressure on him. And he went on a historic run. They were absolutely brilliant last season. Do you worry, though, that maybe there's still maybe a doubt in a mind of
Calvin
Leeds
Lewin
fans?
isn't fit like he was last year, and they did a miraculous job keeping him standing up.
Yeah, wow.
To score that amount of goals.
Unlucky not to get a World Cup.
Correct. That would be a concern. But I love their business so far.
Yeah.
I love the Harry Wilson deal. Free business. And I love the goalie. I think he should be in over Pickford.
So it's 15th harsh prediction from Gabs?
Leeds is a massive football club.
Absolutely.
And, they're expanding that stadium. So I think if the striker area is okay, it's harsh.
Okay.
If it's not harsh.
In 16th, he's gone Ipswich, so he's back in there to stay up.
Okay, fair play.
17th, Brentford.
Disagree with that.
Brentford finished, I think they got 1 win in the last 10 at the end of last season. They, of course, missed out on European football.
Don't matter. Because that happens. My football team last year were bottom of the league when my manager came in. And by February, we got to 8th in a win of the playoffs. Our players got the beach towels out because they thought, we've stayed up. That wasn't our mentality. We wanted to, get the playoffs. Brentford's players were up towards the Champions League most of the season and probably went past we're staying up stage, and then the beach towels in their mind came out. Hence why they won 1 and 10 at the end. It happens. Great manager, great owner, great setup. Love their transfer business already this summer. No chance they'll be 17th.
You don't think there's an issue of, I think you referred to it earlier in the conversation about going a bit stale.
No.
You don't think teams have worked them out?
No, absolutely not, because I think they bring in... you can't work Brentford out. Forget about the style. They change the recruitment every couple of years. The players they keep bringing in means you can't figure them out as the same Brentford from last year.
Yeah.
So, and Keith Andrews, irate. I think he's done an amazing job.
Without a doubt. And then his bottom 3, Coventry, Fulham, Hull.
Yeah, I'd take Coventry out of that one.
Okay, so put your money where your mouth is. If Hull and Fulham are going down, who else is?
I can't call it. I can't.
I expected more from you, Darragh.
No, well, listen, I get it. You want me off the fence, but I can't call it because I'd be a liar.
Yeah,
and I know everyone in the media wants to throw in a Newcastle in there, which is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
If you'd said to me last summer, West Ham were going to be in the bottom 3, or West Ham were going to be going down, or whatever else, or 2 years ago when they won in Europe, I'd have called you a liar. So again, I'm thinking, are we going to get a surprise team?
Who would a surprise team be?
I don't know.
Again, no. I'm not asking you to say they're going to go down. Sure. I think they're going to go down. But what would be a surprise?
I think if a Newcastle were struggling in the bottom 6, it'd be a massive surprise because no matter what you say about them losing their best players, they're bringing in some exciting young players and their manager looks decent enough. So that would be a shock to me. Seeing Spurs down there ever again, like we've seen the last 2 years, that would be a shock to me. I don't know. Again, that's another shocker. We've had Spurs down there the last 2 years.
Talk about Sunderland because I'm not saying Sunderland are going down. What they achieved last season was unbelievable. Yep. I mean, we've not seen that for a long time.
The recruitment department and ownership should get massive credit for basically recruiting those players, backing them, and the manager. They're a magnificent manager. So the only thing that would harm them is if they lost the manager, in my opinion.
I imagine from your perspective, if you were in Sunderland, the thinking would be not how great that is, and we've got European football. Yes, you celebrate. You take the players on a night out, you celebrate.
Oh, I'd be like, play the youth team.
In where?
In Europe.
Sunderland should play their youth team.
I'd be like, we want to stay in this league. And, of course, we saw with some of these bigger squads now, I say the youth team, I don't mean it disrespectfully, the younger players. My focus is staying in the Premier League. So right now, year 2, I want to stay in the Premier League.
But you're essentially saying throw the...
No, because I saw Chelsea win it, paying a lot of their younger players, and I get the ilk and quality of Chelsea's youngsters is different, but it can still be done. But if you're asking me what matters the most to Sunderland fans, yes, a few trips to Europe is great and having a few bevies and some nights with your mate. Mm-hmm. They want to be in the Premier League going into next summer.
And do you think that there is a risk that playing Thursday, Sunday will be to the detriment of their league position?
I think you'd have to answer that at the end of the window. I think people are panicking far too much about who has what and what. Me and Barry were speaking this morning, and I spoke to some owners yesterday in League One. This has been the weirdest window regards the pace of play. The World Cup's been on. Everything's starting later. You ask agents, you ask owners. It's been a really iffy, weird window. Weird as in slow. Weird as in iffy about money and all the things going on. And everyone's expecting this like just a gold rush the last 10 days.
Why does it start so late? And excuse me for my ignorance, but you would typically think you can understand why the Premier League transfers happen late because most of the players are in the Premier League. But down in Championship, League 1, League 2, there's far less representation in that tournament. So why does that have a trickle-down effect, or why does it still happen late this summer for clubs in the EFL?
There's a couple of things, and this has nothing to do with how we've recruited before my fans start accusing us of this, but a lot of football clubs, I don't know if you know this, if you're out of contract with us at the end of a season, generally your contract ends June the 30th.
Right.
But there's this mad rule in place that if you don't have a club through July, I'm going to pay your wages for 4.5 weeks. Right. So what you'll have is you might have a club on average will have 7, 8, 9, 10 players that are out of contract getting released. And if they haven't been picked up by anyone, they're still paying all their salaries in July. So that sometimes goes into the cap, goes into the wage structure, goes into the thought process of when we sign people, the mass majority might be in August. And a lot of clubs do that. then my fans would be screaming. That's why we haven't signed anyone for 20 years. That's never been our thing, and that's never stopped me. It's not bothered me. And yes, we've carried players like Archie Collins, one of our best players last year. We've been paying him through the whole of July, and he should have been signed by July the 1st by somebody. But that's one of the things in football you don't know about. The other thing is that a lot of clubs, if they recruit from the Premier League or loans or whatever, those players go on tours with all the big clubs to help. Because when they have big international players away, they take the youngsters on tour. United, Liverpool, all these big clubs. They won't release them till August. They won't release them till the middle of August.
Because they need a break as well.
Because they need them to fill in and play the pre-season friendlies. So a lot of teams in League One, League Two are like, well, what about us? We're waiting for that player and this player. Yeah, come back to us in 3 weeks.
Hey, fascinating.
So there is a process.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Look, you're listening to Max Scott and Peterborough owner, chairman Darragh McAnthony in for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT. With Selco Builders Warehouse, check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
I anticipate Arsenal to absolutely go again and just be as good as they've been this season.
Mm.
The key element for me on the title this year is Rodri.
Mm.
If Rodri's a Manchester City player throughout the whole course of the season, Manchester City will win the league.
That's a shouting off, that is, isn't it?
Do
Wow.
you disagree? If Manchester City lose Rodri and he goes to Real Madrid, they will not win the league.
I know what you're saying, but I look at it as well from because Anderson's coming, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
He's not Rodri.
I know he's not Rodri.
But he'll benefit from playing alongside him.
Yeah, that would happen.
But if you leave him on his own in there, I think you've got carnage.
Mm. I do know what you're saying, but I think there's more of a factor that Maresca might not be up for it either. You don't know yet.
I think he's up for it.
You reckon he's up for it?
I think he's up for it.
We'll see.
He knows that club. He's been at that club. He understands how that club
You're
works.
talking talking like a real Manchester City supporter.
He went to Chelsea. He did.
Are you Blackburn? You're a Blackburn fan, didn't you?
Yeah, we'll talk.
Hold on a minute.
We'll talk about their dismal summer in a minute.
What about the other teams?
Why are you doing this? Why are you deflecting?
Well, I'm just trying to say.
All I was doing was talking about the Premier League title race. That's all I was saying. And I was just saying that the big impact, the key piece of information for me is Rodri being a Man City player throughout the whole course of the season. And if he is, Manchester City will win the league.
Cool, but that's a shout.
Do you not think so?
So where was he last season?
Getting back from his ACL, mate. Do you not think so?
No, listen, mate.
So you're tipping Arsenal. You think so? You believe in what I said at the start of the show, that you believe that we're entering a dynasty time.
Yeah, but I wouldn't hang my hat on it.
Good afternoon, Max Scott, Darragh McAnthony here on talkSPORT, in for Jim White and Simon Jordan. And this weekend, not only is football returning, but boxing is back on talkSPORT. We're bringing you live commentary of the highly anticipated rematch between Troy Williamson and Callum Simpson from Leeds. It's this Saturday night. Remember, back in December, Callum Simpson was ahead on all three scorecards in the first fight before being dropped 4 times in the 10th round by Williamson before a stoppage. We've seen the brilliant coverage from our boxing team. Spencer Oliver is still up in Leeds and he's joining us live from there, from the north. I'm hearing it's pretty cold up there, Spence, but you've been mobbed by some fans. Is that the case?
Max, Darragh, how are you both doing? Yeah, listen, he's freezing up here. I can't believe it.
Put a jumper
mate.
on then, Spence.
It's like coming to... Yeah, but I mean, I'm up north, mate. People don't wear jumpers up here. You know that. You know what it's like. In December, you see them rocking around with the T-shirts on. So I think I have to fit in. I don't want to stand out up here. You know, there's a lot of boxing fans up here, and they're looking forward to this fight at the First Direct Arena on Saturday night. The highly anticipated return of these two gladiators. It's going to be a great fight. The last one was exceptional. If we treat it to the same fight here, we're in for something special.
Talk to me, Spence, because, look, Callum Simpson was obviously the favourite in the previous fight. He was ahead on all scorecards. Because of the sort of devastating way that fight finished, are the odds changing if we were betting on this, or in your mind?
Well, listen, I think the bookies still have Callum Simpson as the favourite, which is bizarre because of the way that the fight ended. And yeah, he was up on all the scorecards, but it was a very close fight, and a lot of people actually thought that he was down on the scorecards against Troy Williamson at the time of the stoppage. Troy Williamson had him down 4 times in the 10th round. It was a systematic beating there. So what Callum Simpson now has to do is overcome those demons, that psychological damage that's been done. When he makes that ring walk, gets into the ring, he's going to remember that. Can he do it? Can he reverse it? I've got to say, it's a big ask. He's been very confident, though, up here this week. He's talking the talk, but we'll find out if he can walk the walk on Saturday.
Has Troy found his feet at super middleweight, Spence?
Darragh, great question, because he was British super welterweight champion, and then he had 4 back-to-back losses, but they were against good opponents like Kevin Ajarko was one of those guys who we've just seen recently boxing that had beaten him. He's lost to Josh Kelly as well, so he's been mixing at a high calibre of opponent. He's jumped up 2 weight divisions, and it looks like he's suited him better than ever. He was there and he was nailing Callum Simpson every time in that first fight with the right hand, and he looked like he was getting stronger as the fight goes on. So I think the weight actually has done him a big favour, and this might be the weight that he's more comfortable at, and obviously he would have fitted into it even more now because he's had more time.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this one. Callum Simpson, Troy Williamson, live on talkSPORT Saturday night from Leeds. But there's something else I want to talk to you about. My ears were pricking up. I was prepping for Drive yesterday, Spence, and I heard the frosty exchange between Ben Shalom and our very own Adam Catterall. Of course, you were alongside Ben as he joined the Catman and Carlton Cole here on White and Jordan yesterday, where he was absolutely furious, was Ben, with the way boxing is currently being run.
The reason why boxers get paid so much is because they're taking the money. You don't want a monopoly in sport. You want to play fair, and you want the fighters to... This isn't about creating shareholder value and saying, oh, can you believe that no one's actually been able to sell a business in boxing? It sounds like Infantino job. Oh, look at all this money that we can make for all the shareholders. That. This is a disgrace, and I'll say it, because no one's doing anything about it, and it's going to get too late. And I'm saying this as a passionate boxing fan. I'm not worried about the fighters in the next 1 or 2 years. I'm worried about the fighters in 10 years' time. I think it's a disgrace that people are sat back.
Spence, how was it for you when, we didn't get the full clip there, but him and Catman sort of having a disagreement over Zuffa boxing. How was it for you, sort of stood there watching on?
Well, I've got to be honest, Max. I think I might have been guilty of poking the bear. So yeah, I
absolute wind-up merchant. Then he gets out.
I set the. Absolutely, I knew what was going to happen. Catman was asking him questions, and then I sort of switched the conversation to Zuffa boxing and asked Ben what it was like. New promoters in town coming in. Ben was once that guy. And what are your thoughts on Zuffa boxing, Ben? How can they make an impact? What are you thinking about? This whole situation with them and. The rest is history. He just went for it. It's a great interview. You can catch that on the YouTube channel. It was a great interview.
Spence, I appreciate, Ben's point of view, because obviously he's feeling like now the small kid in the schoolyard and the bully's basically nicking his lunch. And obviously a lot of other promoters are probably feeling the same. But the irony that, boxing promoters are whinging about somebody coming in basically and, taking over the sport. What's your view? Do you see Zuffa as bad for boxing, good for boxing, problematic for boxing? How would you describe it?
I think that competition is always healthy for boxing because it creates, a lot of interest. You get new eyeballs. Dana White has done what he's done in the UFC. He created that model, which was fantastic, and now he's trying to implement that into boxing. And I think that's where the controversy comes in here. He's teamed up with Turki Al-Sheikh, TKO, Zuffa Boxing, and they've started and they want to take over the sport. And what they're trying to do, and Ben Shalom's argument was that they want to get rid of all the, the sanctioning bodies, all the governing bodies, which is the WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO, and they want to put it under one umbrella, which is the Zuffa boxing belt. And historically, the sport has been built on the world champions and whatnot, and that's where I think the argument comes in. They want to change the Muhammad Ali Act, which is another massive thing, and that means that the sport of boxing would change hugely. We don't like change. I think, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think what we've got works, and you get that opportunity. Fighters get the opportunity to fight for world titles. But I think that Zuffa Boxing's idea is to create like a league and have one champion in one weight division, etc. It's a huge ask, by the way, but it's ruffled a few feathers when it comes to the other promoters like Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Ben Shalom. They're not happy about it.
You're not wrong there. It's interesting whenever you hear sort of Eddie Hearn. We had him on Drive yesterday. Great to have him on as always, but he's no longer calling him His Excellency. Because you can see that sort of the power dynamics changing in boxing. And it's box office, as always, Zuffa the Disruptors. This is going to rumble on for a long time, no doubt. Spence, absolute belter, mate. Thank you so much. Enjoy your time up in Leeds, and we'll speak to you soon. Spence.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
So a reminder that huge fight live from Leeds on talkSPORT this Saturday. It's Troy Williamson, Callum Simpson, brought to you live by our absolutely incredible boxing team. You're listening to Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony for now. In for Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Look at Real Madrid. Go and look at... This is the point that I think Gabby was making this morning. I know that he was making it regarding trophies and what have you, but look at the brand value.
180 million.
There you go. Right. That's how big that football club is.
Right, that's a lot.
That's how big that is as a worldwide entity. 180 million, and you're talking about him coming to a club that has 32 million followers on Instagram. Again, these are very basic metrics. Very basic metrics. But Vinicius Junior is in a completely different stratosphere. All this talk about him coming to Arsenal throughout the whole course of the summer has just been manipulation from an agent trying to get the dude a few more quid. That's what it is. He was never in a million years going to be an Arsenal player this summer. That's what it is. It's just manipulating the market. Let's see if I can get some more money for my guy. Yeah. Why would he come to Arsenal?
I said that was agent talk. Agent talk. Just using Arsenal as a
leverage.
A tool.
Yeah. Arsenal are interested. Oh, right, wicked. Brilliant. Arsenal, champions of England. Right, well, let's use them. Yeah. Let's use them. Go back to the table with the Real Madrid lads. Forward. Yeah, he's coming out of contract. You know what I mean? He needs a few more zeros on this contract. Yeah. Okay. We're going to sign Yandy Mande. Let's put some pressure on you. No, don't worry about that. Vinny Jr. ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Is it?
Come on. You can't leave. I just don't see leaving Real Madrid as a... you don't leave Real Madrid unless Real Madrid leaves you.
That's it.
That's it, mate.
Unless you come to the end of your time on your way, son.
Can't have a supermodel girlfriend and you leaving your supermodel girlfriend.
She leaves you.
For the dinner lady. Like, you know what I mean?
The dinner lady? You can't call Arsenal a dinner lady.
Well, it's love, innit? It's love.
afternoon. With your headlines, I'm Sinead Garvan. The number of migrants working illegally in the UK has more than doubled in 2 years. The Home Office says 17,000 arrests have been made since Labour came to power, which is an increase of 122%. Anna Turley is the Border Security Minister.
We cannot have a situation where people think they can come here and disappear into illegal working, and that's why we're clamping down on it with record levels of activity, and it's telling people very, very clearly, don't think that you can come here and disappear into the illegal market.
A local chief constable is warning anyone involved in anti-immigration disorder in Norfolk will face the full force of the law. Chaos erupted last night in Thetford over fears asylum seekers were going to be housed there. The Times reporter Herbie Russell's there.
A list of HMOs was circulated on social media. People turned up and they were met by police. And from what I can tell, I'm here now, they've now moved the asylum seekers out. So overall, a lot calmer than previous nights.
The NHS says it has no timeline for putting in place new guidance over single-sex spaces. Earlier this week, rules came into force, meaning spaces like toilets should be used according to biological sex. And rail disruption across the Midlands and northwest of England is expected for the rest of the day. Yesterday's power outage left some passengers stranded for hours. Travellers are being urged to check before setting off.
Talk Sport Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
Rodri's agent has confirmed he wants to join Barcelona rather than Real Madrid, and we've been told Spurs are better off without Christian Romero, who has agreed terms with Atletico. Uma has more at 1.
Love the Carabao Cup. Early rounds, you are guaranteed drama.
Ball in right-footed efforts in. It's Middlesbrough that take the lead. And Smith has scored! Welcome to Wrexham! It's one of the classic Carabao Cup ties. It's down by Soucek, poked in by Bowen. It's 1-0 West Ham United. Crossing by Bishop. It's 2-0 to Pompey.
The Carabao Cup delivering yet again on talkSPORT.
Colchester won, and he's lashed it into the back of the...
Is Azaz! Oh! Finn Azaz for Southampton!
What a breathless, fantastic advert for Carabao Cup football.
Evans! Mansfield Town back on level terms!
Bamford again! Second goal for Patrick Bamford. Second goal for Sheffield United. All the drama of the Carabao Cup live on talkSPORT.
Yeah, can you believe it? Thank the good Lord, football is back on the talkSPORT network tonight as we bring you our first commentary of the 26-27 season in the Carabao Cup, no less. Middlesbrough host Wrexham in the first round with kick-off for that at 8 p.m, while tomorrow Adrian Durham takes you around the grounds with more huge Carabao Cup ties, including his beloved Peterborough, Darragh McAnthony's Peterborough, who travel to Bristol Rovers. And earlier on the breakfast show this morning, Adrian came on the breakfast show and was speaking about the business, Darragh, so far this summer.
Posh are going to lose there tomorrow because we're not ready for the start of the season yet again. They finished. Well, they finished a point above the relegation zone last season, and the model of the club is they sell their good players, and we get that. We understand that. It's not a hotbed of football, so they don't get big crowds. So we lost 3 of our best players this summer. They've not been replaced. We haven't signed a player for a month. The manager says, Luke Williams says Posh are targeting promotion. With the squad we've got right now, Posh will be relegated. If they don't add at least 4 players to go straight into the first team, a right back, a winger, a number 10 and a 6, Peterborough will be in massive trouble.
Lifelong season ticket holder, Posh loving Adrian Durham, our voice of football, saying that Darragh McAnthony in the studio, the owner of Peterborough. Now, I want to caveat this and be clear. Maybe we've been a bit naughty with the clip there. Adrian does say very clearly in the same segment that he's very confident you are going to get those players through the door. So just to give a bit of balance to the clip, he has full faith in you that you'll get it done. I know you've got a relationship with Adrian, but how does it feel when you hear, Probably the most prominent Peterborough fan in the media, speaking like that.
Listen, he's entitled to his opinion. I always say that. And the beauty about it is he spends his money, he buys season tickets. And I love that about him. So, opinions are opinions. We all have them. We have a way we're looking at it. We know what we want to recruit. We know the players we've been after since May. And I can basically give up what we're trying to do and I can go sign plan C, D, and E. And then they're not the players we wanted. Or I can just hang in there and play this the way I'm playing it, which I think would be the right thing for our football club. And we do need 4 signings, potentially 5, but 4. We don't need a right back. We have 2 very good right backs, but and everyone knows that. But we have a good young squad. We have a great manager. They've been working their backsides all full summer, and I just hate the fact that they're getting hammered. The manager, his staff, the work they put in, the players, and it's not just Adrian, it's everyone else saying they're this, they're that, they're going to be bottom, they're going to get relegated, they're going to lose tomorrow, and it's just like, my God, cut us some slack. Like, we had a really bad season on the injury front last year. It killed us. But we got to a stage with like 12, 14 games to go where we could have had a go at the playoffs and we lost 3 of our best players to injury. So I know we finished really badly. We finished 5th bottom, 6th bottom. It's not where Peterborough wants to be. 3 of the last 5 years, Max, we've been in the playoffs in League One. But everyone forgets that because of what you've done for me recently.
Yeah.
So I know what we need. The manager knows what we need. But we want the ones we want. And what we don't want is, and we don't want worse options. We want those. And I'm confident.
As I said, Adrian says he is confident that you are going to get those done.
Sure, great.
Why does it take so long? I know you referred to it a little bit earlier.
I told you, and I'm sick of saying it. And people like losing their nonsense over, we haven't signed a player for a month. We signed 5 players this summer. Not that we didn't sign any. Yes, we lost a few good players, and we have a couple out with injuries at the moment that have still to come back. We're very good players at this level. It takes time because a couple of those players could be abroad with their clubs on tours.
Yep.
A couple of those players, their teams need to replace them. There's various reasons, and when I make the signings, we'll talk about those reasons, but you can't now. And you're also in competition. People questioning Peterborough United in recruitment because we haven't signed a player for 30 days, and they need to calm down. We know what we want, but we're not going to sign the wrong players. We got hammered 2 years ago for signing bad players in a bad transfer, or a bad window. We're going to get it right, and we're going to get it right with the right players. And all of this is just like OTT. Whether we win, lose, or draw tomorrow, next week, like, it's August. Nothing's won in August. And this isn't like last August for us where we signed like 7 in one day. That was different last year. And those players weren't fit. The ones we're going to sign have already been working pre-season. So we know they'll pretty much go into our squad. I'm not going to pick our teams. I don't. He's saying they go straight into the team. That's unfair to some of the young players we have to play for our football club.
That you seem confident. Now, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but we're going to save it for the Ask McAnthony coming after the break. But I do want to talk about the Carabao Cup because a big part of the conversation so far in this pre-season has been starting early. You've got Bristol Rovers. You go into that game.
Yep.
Is it a bit of a distraction for your preparations as a football club that you've got this cup game before a league game?
I love the cups, and we've never done well in this cup. I think we've lost the last 10 first rounds. Like, we've never done well. We've won other cups. We've been to Wembley.
Yeah.
Never done well in this one. I'd love it to be, on a Tuesday or whatever else. Look, let me see how I feel tomorrow about it on a Saturday. I'm glad football's back. I kind of wish we were starting the league tomorrow. You know what I mean? And you play the cup
because that's the bread and butter.
Yeah, but I also get what everyone was dealing with the World Cup. And I get all of that, and I get the reasons. The Carabao Cup is very important to the EFL. It's very important to us, financially going forward. So we have to basically be flexible on that. So we get on with it tomorrow. I'm excited. There's games tonight.
Happy days.
I watched the one last night. Good game. Good upset by Walsall.
Go well tomorrow. We're looking forward to seeing how you get on, and confident certainly that the signings are going to get big.
Yeah, I mean,
for the posh fans that texting in,
it's been made to seem like we only have like 9 players at our football club. We have some very good players. My manager said it yesterday. There will be some new stars that come to the forefront this season. And yes, we will add to the squad as well. We always do. Quick statistic for you, Adrian, and everyone else. Behind Wrexham and Birmingham, we were the biggest spenders in League One the last 5 transfer windows. In the millions. And we're Peterborough United with 9,000 fans.
There you go. Darragh McAnthony giving us his honest reflections on Peterborough this summer, backing them to get the players in. But we're going to break a little bit early because we want to give as much time as possible for all of your questions for Darragh. 03717 223344. Ask Darragh McAnthony up next.
Chris, what about Man U? I fancy United have a much better season. I think Michael deserves this job, and I do think they're going to be up there. I think they're going to push. I think they're going to be strong.
No, I do. I think I'm so happy to see Carragher's just thriving. I think, obviously, having played with him, you know what kind of character he is. He's that composed and he's intelligent, and he's obviously bringing that into one of the biggest jobs in world football. And I think the run they obviously had at the end of last season, obviously in 2026, I think they were like number one in points taken. So for him to be able to have a full pre-season, bring in whoever he likes in terms of players and just have that belief, I think there's no one better kind of, steering that ship really. And no, I'm excited to see what the season brings for them.
I think it's going to be an interesting season, Chris, all round, because so many new managers. You don't know what to expect. Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs have spent big money as well. Whether they can try and get into that top four. And obviously, the only one with a little bit of stability is probably Arsenal. But it's always hard to retain that title, isn't it?
100%. I think everyone's going to be hungrier than ever, and it is hard to kind of maintain that. You're now the golden ones that everyone wants to compete and to fight against. So I'm happy for United to be able to have that consistency from last season, because like you say, a lot of players are going to be coming, a lot of managerial changes. So I think United's got the perfect start at the minute, and hopefully hit the ground running.
Here we go then, final section of White and Jordan with me, Max Scott and Darragh McAnthony. It's absolutely flown by, and we promised you that we would put your questions to Darragh, so we're going to get straight into it. Rob from Chester says, regarding Peterborough United, I grew up there, would regularly watch them up until around 2013 when I moved away. How much risk would he take to get them promoted and established in the Championship? He says, great show, by the way. I would genuinely love to see Darragh there as a full-time member of the talkSPORT team. Well, I think he's probably a little bit too busy for a full-time gig, but we love having him on here on the basis in the summer. But yeah, how much risk would you take?
Look, I've always been a risk taker all my life. It's how I built my business and my career and took a risk on into sports, which I'd never been in before. But I would never put the football club, something the fans cherish and love, at risk. No chance. So, but I do what I can within a certain element of
calculated risk.
Calculated, maybe sometimes a little bit high maintenance risk, but never horrible risk.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just too dangerous for me.
Sounds about right to me as a football fan. Yep. Great question, Rob. Moving on. Rich says, morning, gents. Does Darragh support the 3 up, 3 down for the National League?
I'm warming to it.
Okay, explain the process. Presumably you were colder then. Why were you colder? Why are you warmer?
Yeah, I just felt like, there was bridges to be built between the National League and the EFL. And, a couple of years ago, they sided, I think it was with the FA, with the FA Cup and certain things. And I thought that was the wrong thing to do. And we've got to be together on certain things. And I look at it and I think it's pretty unfair with the quality of the teams now from non-league coming up. Last year you saw York stealing in the last second after Rochdale thought they were... Thankfully, Rochdale, even at 2-0 down with like 6 minutes to go in the Wembley final, got up. Imagine if they hadn't. Imagine if Notts County a few years ago hadn't gone up the season Wrexham went up.
Yeah.
Those would be horrible stories. So I am warming to it.
Okay, no, I agree with you on that one. Another question from Rich. He says, who does Darragh make favourites for the League 2 title? Great show, by the way.
Yeah, I would say you'd have to say Salford with the amount of business they've done, but never write off Steve Evans. I always say that. The guy's a serial winner. He's a promotion lunatic. He's won more promotions, than I've had hot dinners. So there's a few biggies in there that you couldn't write off, but I would say Salford, for what they've spent this summer, and I'm well aware of what they've spent, you'd expect them to win that league.
Okay, so from the National League and League 2 to the Premier League. Hi, lads. What does Darragh think of Leeds United's ownership model? Overall 49ers control, but Red Bull having a stake in the club and on the shirts, etc. A few fans don't like the idea of Red Bull. Just interested to see what he thinks regarding their involvement, considering how they've completely changed other clubs into Red Bull franchises. And of course, Leeds fans have understandably reflected that fear that they become, the West
Leeds Red
Bulls.
Yeah, I don't think they're tone deaf to people at Red Bull. If that was the case, they wouldn't do that to Leeds. It's such an iconic club. You know what I mean? The fans would you riot over that.
Wait, do you remember when the previous owners brought out that badge? Those change. It's completely tone deaf.
I'm telling you right now, that won't happen. But I think the ownership that's gone in there has done pretty well. They've got them back up. They've kept them up. If they keep building, I've seen the plans what they want to do at the ground. So you've got to watch and listen and judge based on results. So I don't think they've got anything to fear there.
All right, fair enough. Now, we asked for your messages, but we also asked for your voice notes. Alex has kindly sent one in. Question about the Virtue Trophy.
Hi, lads. Alex Donifan here. DMAC, love your honesty and openness. Just want to ask what your views and opinions are on the Virtue Trophy, or whatever it's called. Do you think it should be revamped, removing the under-21s and just having League 1 and 2? Or remove the under-21s and have the National League Premier in there? Cheers.
Love the trophy. We're record holders, so I think we jointly hold it 3 times with one other club. Only club to go back to back.
Yep.
It matters when you see Birmingham Wrexham fight to win it a few years ago, and we beat them back to back to win. You ask any of the fans who had days out at Wembley, my Peterborough fans, including Adrian Durham, who was probably there 12 months ago at Wembley for the second year in a row, before talking about all the players I need to sign. So I love it. I don't mind the 21 teams in it. The reason they're in it is the Prem put a bit more money in, and we all get more prize money. And Peterborough, if we hadn't paid our players the bonuses for winning, would have made 500 grand and 550 the second time. We would have made £1 million across 2 years winning it. But obviously I gave it to the players in bonuses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you can really help with your turnover. You can help your club. Coventry many years ago won it when they were in League 2 on their way back up to the top and lets them go to the Premier League. So I'm a massive fan of it. Not sure about the National League being included in it, but I have no issue now with the Gianni Infantino and stuff.
You're not
people
beat me with that.
No, but people got very OTT about you can't have Guardiola B teams in the league or whatever else. But I enjoy the trophy. Our club always takes it very seriously and respectfully. So yeah, love it.
Brilliant. Thanks for the voice note, Alex. Back to the questions. Ben, the Norwich fan. Hi, Darragh. Norwich fan here from Peterborough. I know it's not just Norwich, but why do clubs leave it so frustratingly late to buy players? We start the league in almost a week exactly, yet we're still on the hunt for players. I know it's easier said than done, but surely all clubs prioritise getting business done soon as possible to gel pre-season, adapt to the playing style, etc. It's just frustrating. I know that you have we've spoken about this earlier in the show.
And I love doing business early, but sometimes it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes just things don't align. Sometimes players think they're going to get a different move, and you hang around and wait. It's like waiting for the prettiest girl in the bar. She might eventually say yes to you. That happens in football too. I'm not saying that's happened to us, but what I'm saying is that the best way of doing it is you do all your business the first week of July, then pre-season camp starts and everyone's together and it's brilliant. Fantastic. Doesn't always work like that. Just the world's not perfect. We signed 4 or 5 pretty quick out of the gate, and we always knew There'll be another 3 or 4 or 5 coming in. Potentially 2 will be in July and the rest in August. Those 2 didn't happen in July for various reasons, which I can explain down the line. But the point is, don't panic, because this is just the way football goes. Look at the big clubs in the Premier Club. We've seen some of the most biggest blockbuster transfers happen on deadline day from players that have come in and affected the season. So it's just football. I explained earlier how it can work, the mythology behind it. There's no perfect science to recruitment.
There's an irony there, isn't it, that us fans want business done early. And it's interesting that you said earlier about how if you would want fans to understand one thing, it'd be a fly on the wall in your conversations with agents. Yeah. But the irony is, we want it all done early, but we love deadline day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The drama.
And that's the truth. Someone said to me, would you do away with the transfer windows and have it just open all year round? I'm like, no, because the excitement, the buzz, you know, everyone used to have their yellow ties on or their yellow gear on when Jim used to do it at Sky, and I've done enough of them at Sky in here. And everyone watches and everyone tunes in. And by the way, when you have an asset someone wants to buy, there's no better day than deadline day to get the bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Because that's when people start panicking. And of course, I don't want to be going into deadline day having to sign 1 player, 2 player. I'd rather be done and dusted.
Yeah.
And I hope I am.
Absolutely. Darren, the Man United fan, says, and this is an interesting one. Be interesting to get your takes. I know you're very proud of what Peterborough are doing in your academy. How do I get my son, who is about to play under 11s this season, scouted or into an academy? I never see scouts at games. Is it just luck, or is it who you know as ex-players' kids all seem to be in academies?
No, there are scouts. There should be scouts everywhere. We have scouts at all levels of games, and usually there's development centres nearby. He needs to find a development centre for a club. Peterborough have development centres hundreds of miles from Peterborough. We have like 5 of them, where we basically have players in. There's camps. We see them. We see how talented they are, and that leads to us potentially doing scholarships and whatever else. Never stop knocking on the door if you want your kid to obviously get into a good academy. But don't push it OTT either. The kid's still young. There's plenty of time. And, you know, I would say whatever your local club is, find out if they have a foundation that has summer camps. There's a lot of clubs look at the kids in the summer camps as well that might lead to a place in an academy.
We speak about the difficulty of agents. Do you find, because of the role of agents maybe, but just because of the way that society and culture has changed, do you think that parents are more difficult to deal with in academies?
Oh, my God. Let me tell you, my biggest enemy used to be agents. And I deal with all the agents, some good, some bad, some brilliant, and some brilliant people recently, and they're just honest and direct. But the one thing I've noticed the last couple of winters is creeping in is you're dealing with more dads, and I'm not sure I love that. And I just think you need a professional, and I think dads are too close. If my son was a high-powered athlete, look at my personality, I'm strong, character. I would want an expert handling his career. And I wouldn't want to get in the way because it would cause issues between me and my son. And I don't want anything to come in between me and my son. And I look at the amount of dads I'm now speaking to, and it's really, really difficult because they're telling me how wonderful their kid is. And we all think our kids are wonderful.
Of course.
But I tell people the truth about my kids. Yes, they're wonderful to a point, and they're a pain in the neck to another point.
Yes.
But they're not perfect. A lot of these players, dads, they think their kids are perfect. And then they get DMAC here who just tells them the truth.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I don't sign a couple of them. Do you know what I mean? But you've always got to be honest, right?
Well, I can tell you in my previous role as a deputy head teacher at secondary school, I wasn't able to necessarily be a DMAC all the time because
I'd have been fired.
I can get that totally. We're going to end on this voice note from Mark. This is around ticket prices in the Premier League.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask Darragh if he thinks the EFL should adopt the same policy as the Premier League and cap away ticket pricing because it's getting ridiculous.
Really, really difficult to do. And don't forget, in the EFL, you know, the Premier League clubs get 200 million. You know, we get like a mil and a half. You know, so it's easy to say, why don't the EFL cap this and why don't they do that and cap the way we can earn money and whatever. Unfortunately, when you get some monstrous clubs in the lower leagues, clubs are going to have to try and benefit one way or another, and that means the fans paying through the nose.
Yeah.
You know, it's a brutal truth, but it's the hard truth.
Thank you so much for your questions. Absolutely brilliant way to end the show. Darragh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Love
Thank
working
you
with
so
you,
much.
my man.
Have a great weekend. We're going to be back on Monday and Tuesday next week. So more of this, where it came from. Keep your questions coming in. Paul Hawksby, Andy Jacob next. Have a great weekend.
Hussein, good morning.
Good morning, Shaban.
Oh, Akbar Lahore, you're making me boil right now. I can't stand you, mate.
Oh.
You know, what have you won? What have you actually won, Gabby? You've not won nothing. All
Yeah.
you keep doing is just criticize Arsenal. What have you actually won?
Nothing, mate.
You know, it's actually funny that I used to like you as a striker, but now I can't even. I don't know what I used to see in you because you've won absolutely nothing. And Arsenal are gonna win
But
stuff.
you
They're gonna
used to
win.
like
We've
me, you
just won
said.
the Premier League. Yeah, I used to,
Oh.
but now.
What did
I
you
wish I
like
didn't.
about me, though,
I
from
wish I
before?
didn't. Now it's your big gob. Sorry to say that. You just keep criticizing Arsenal, but you just don't see how Arsenal are actually making. They're going places right now. We've just won the Premier League. You just even don't appreciate that we did that because you just don't hate Arsenal. That's your issue.
I love Arsenal.
No, you don't.
I do. Thierry Henry is my favourite player. I've got his shirt that I wear at home.
Don't insult my intelligence, Gabby, please. Just
I
call
love
it as it
Arsenal,
is.
mate.
No, you don't.
I do.
Let me finish by saying this.
Okay.
Why will not what's his name, Vini, not come to Arsenal? Because
it's
we are
Arsenal.
actually building a team. Because we are building. Why should he stay in Real Madrid? Especially what
Real Madrid
happened between him and Jose. Never. You know what? I don't know if I'm gonna get anywhere with you, but I said what I wanted to say.